Greetings everybody from Spa-Francorchamps, one of the most iconic race circuits around the globe, and it is the home of round 5 of the Michelin Le Mans Cup for 2021. We're coming out of the two more unusual races as part of the championship with the half-point scores and the 55-minute race affairs as part of the Road to Le Mans, and those races gleaned race victories for Nielsen Racing and Mühlner Motorsport in LMP3, for Iron Lynx and for PZ Obeira by TFT in the GT3 category. GT3s are rather slim on the ground this weekend in Michelin Le Mans Cup, but we do at least have those two cars, the 8 Ferrari and the 2 Porsche, together with the number 9 Iron Lynx Ferrari as well. But, I mean, you know, championship is hotting up. Just the 2 lots of 25 points still available, and we'll keep you in tune with how things go over the next 2 hours. It's Johnny Palmer and Graham Goodwin. Fair to say that qualifying earlier on in ELMS was somewhat eventful and has put us rather back behind schedule, so no chance for the big build-up of this race. Now build for a 4 o'clock start local.
It is indeed. The circuit here does have a curfew at 6 p.m. That's been extended to 6:05. So I believe we are going to get this race underway behind the safety car to enable the field to get an orderly getaway, to give more of a guarantee that we'll get that orderly getaway. So it's got a pretty rapid turnaround with time lost to 2 significant shunts.
We still have some cars very late at T14, 15. If you could pick up the pace, we would be very, very grateful.
So as you can hear, Eduardo Freitas hurrying things along as best he can with safety, but it's been a matter of clawing back time lost to those 2 shunts, one for the one in the LMP3 and one in LMP2 in the European Le Mans Series qualifying earlier this afternoon, Johnny. 2 big accidents, but happily the news appears to be that both drivers are okay.
David Hauser, Nico Jamin being those drivers involved for Racing Experience and United Autosports respectively. So the starting grid for these cars arranged earlier on during a split session, 15 minutes each for GT3 and then for LMP3. The P3 is by far the busier, and it produced a pole position time for Finn Gersitz at the end in the number 5 car, Phoenix Racing, that he shares with Hamza Ovega. And it will be Hamza to start.
As a reminder, the marshals are showing the boards on the right-hand side of the grid. The marshals are showing the boards with the row numbers on the right-hand side of the grid.
There is a little bit of confusion here as to where these cars need to be, and of course they will have been ordered roughly in the right positions in the assembly area, but there's a lot of cars to get in there, and it's tough to get them in exactly the right order, but with work from the marshals, very good work indeed. This is an unexpected way to start the race. Every credit to those that have been getting instructions very late on. We're just about there, I'd say. Just about.
2-hour race, remember, and we are 2 hours and 4 minutes from the point at which track action must cease this evening. So my guess is we'll be getting that safety car underway very, very quickly. Great work from everybody around to keep this delay to an absolute minimum. And soon enough, we will see that Audi pace car pull away.
I'm glad you had worked out that the curfew kicked in at 6, because I had a memory of us being able to run much later than that on a Saturday. But of course, special dispensation given for the 24 hours, that being an annual event. But otherwise, this didn't need to go any further than 6. In fact, it was billed for a 5 to 4 start, so that now makes sense why we needed to get everything done and started by that point to have cars safely back into Parc Fermé in time for the curfew itself. There are gaps on the grid, and that might be because of time set in qualifying earlier on, and then difficulties for cars because MV2S ground to a halt. Was that in the earlier session?
That was ELMS. Yeah, that was.
I am getting the two confused.
That's right, as is my usual once. Yeah, it's 2 separate incidents at about the same time and at about the same place on the track.
That's right. Yeah. Another message from Eduardo Freitas upcoming, or maybe just a bit trigger happy there.
There's a door open on one of those cars. There's a trouble there for the 69 car.
Yes.
Car 11, please move 6 meters forward. Car 11, please move 6 meters forward.
So that's the WTM powered by Phoenix car.
Car 11, you should be beside car 5. Car 11, you should be beside car 5.
That's causing problems to the cars.
Yeah, everybody else behind.
That's
okay.
the problem.
And,
there we go.
And the confusion for Torsten Kratz was he thought he'd need to be on the grid slots, as you would be for a Grand Prix, whereas actually this is due to be now a start behind the safety car, and you have to be side by side as if it were a rolling start.
Indeed.
So that instruction has been
almost
sent.
Almost there. 1 minute board on the grid. 1 minute board on the grid.
Stressy times in race control, I'm sure, with the pressure to complete this race. Nobody wants this to be checkered flagged early.
No. That might be inevitable though, but only by a couple of minutes, because time needs to be allowed, of course, for the cars to slow down, I suppose, as well. Unless the slowing down lap can be done outside of the curfew, because they'll be
on the grid. 30 seconds board on the grid.
They'll be on low throttle, remember, at that point, so noise levels, which is the major concern, of course.
Yes. And as long as everybody is aware, all the team managers can then send the message to the drivers to say, ease off the throttle now, because we have to be quiet, then that should be fine.
And there's no urgency, because of course they can tell the drivers getting in the cars halfway through this race.
Green flag in the front of the grid. Green flag in the front of the grid.
So formation lap it is. And this is going to be very tight as to whether or not we can get to a full race distance here, but it's going to be close to it,
and certainly far enough for maximum points to be awarded, because we're getting way beyond the 75% marker. So even if the last few moments have to be shaved off, then it's not a big drama.
You're talking a lap, aren't we, really?
Yeah,
tops.
Yeah, 2 and a bit minutes. So they will head around, as this is labelled the formation lap. The clock has not started yet, interestingly. So they'll do a formation lap, then the start behind the safety car.
If indeed that comes to pass.
Well, maybe not, actually. We could do a rolling start at the end of this, but we'll wait and see. The reason for the hastily arranged grid was that, of course, normally the cars would be sent out from where they are housed, which is in the endurance pit lane, to a dummy grid, which is much more sedate, team members and maybe some public as well welcoming the cars, and about a sort of 15-20 minute build-up before then a formation lap and the start of the race. But unfortunately that opportunity taken away from us because of the delays earlier on. So a hastily arranged grid, a formation lap, and then it remains to be seen whether we get the race underway behind the safety car. I suppose you've got to start the race at some stage, so why not do it at the end of this lap? So out of turn 9 goes this long stream of LMP3s. The GT3s are not all bolted together at the end at the back of the pack, and that is a rule that's been long-standing in this championship, is that wherever you qualify, that is where you legitimately start. So Gabriele Dancieri will have between him Crichton Lendudis and Mark Crader, between he and the nearest GT3 rival, who is Niki Leutwiler, starting the PZ Obera Porsche.
Indeed, Patrice Lafargue behind the first of the behind the Porsche until the 29th starter on this grid will indeed be the number 9 Iron Lynx car, Manuela Gosner, aboard that car. Cars beginning to get themselves in formation, or cars to close the gaps. Grid formation at turn 16, says Eduardo Freitas.
Yeah, and you normally get that instruction when the cars are about to go for a rolling start. So grid formation, side by side as well. So just like the safety car start at Le Mans this year wasn't single file, it was a 2x2 rolling start in the end. That was delayed because of weather. This is not. This is purely just to get the cars gridded up as quickly as possible. And then the safety car, or the pace car I suppose as it is at the moment, should peel off to the pit lane, and that will leave Hamza Ovega dictating the pace as they head across the line. There goes the Audi to the right hand side, will peel off into the pit lane, and Hamza Ovega versus Torsten Kratz will be the first 2 cars. Antoine Duquin and Alexander Matchel next up. Interesting selection of drivers, particularly for Duquin, who's a little bit slow away and is almost swamped there by Jacques Wolf and Mo Smith. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 abreast, heading into La Source, and a change of lead already, although a delay, and all of a sudden and the WTM car is wide. There's a spinner further back. 2 cars, including a United machine, stranded in the middle as well.
Is Fricadelli involved? It's Team Thor involved. I think that was the Racing Team Le Mans car turned around.
Well, despite the fact that WTM did go wide, the Powered by Phoenix car, it has gathered things up and rejoined in second position. Hamza Vega in the Finn Gersit's qualified car drops to third, and Anton Ducan, I did wonder about them selecting him as the starting driver, will now start to stretch his legs, because Anton Ducan is the bronze-rated driver, although sort of very close to being a silver. I think he will return if he comes back next year as certainly a silver, and he shares with Josh Skelton. Well, Ducan already starting to stretch his legs in the 37.
Further back, making hay as the others spun around them. The 2 leading GT3 cars are together in 19th and 20th place, and just 0.2 of a second apart as they go through the first timing sector. So the GT3 lead battle is fully lit.
At least 5 spinners at that first corner. I don't know whether that was part of the reason why the safety car was deployed initially to ensure that the start was slightly more sedate, but that didn't work. But as I say, we had to kind of wave the cars onto a green flag lap at some point, and the first turn schmozzle is under investigation as well. They'll check that all the cars were in the right order as they cross the start line, and also whether anyone needs to receive a punishment for what happened at turn 1.
The good news though, Johnny, is that all 29 cars have cleared the second timing sector.
Excellent.
So despite the shenanigans that happened at turn 1, everybody has got themselves sorted out and is back and running. Whether or not we see anybody duck into pit lane, we will wait and see.
Yeah, well, that's certainly a possibility, because there maybe have been some damage for 1 or 2 cars that went out of frame briefly. And speaking of which, the 32 car having to rejoin, maybe with some nose damage from the earlier incident at turn 1. That's Daniel Schneider, who has now resulted in dropping right to the back of the field behind Auden Gudmundsson. And after Auden's really good efforts in qualifying earlier today, unfortunately Team Thor involved in the turn 1 incident, running in 28th position of 29 cars.
Yeah, 32 is back on track. Yellow flags withdrawn at turn 12, and through they all come. Cool Racing's Antoine Ducan, 1.2 seconds ahead of Turton Kratz in the WTM Powered by Phoenix 11 car that looked set to take the lead into turn 1. Lost it coming out of turn 1. And GT, the Iron Lynx number 8 car, has managed to put the CD Sport 33 between Gabriele Lancieri's 488 and the number 2 Porsche, Niki Ludweiler, as Gerrit Donker looks up the inside to try to take a position for 5th from the 69 Cool Racing of Mo Smith. TS Corsa, Black Falcon involved in a tussle there, just a little further back.
Mike Rosenberg up and on top of the curb there. TS Corsa, Pietro Peccinini was involved too in the green and yellow car. Very smart livery indeed on the TS Corsa. Duquesne has taken the slightly higher line through Bruxelles. There was the Mulner Motorsport Duquesne, which has to be Torsten Young, with Frank Kraling not very far away either, also for Phoenix Racing. So 3 Phoenix cars in the race today. The WTM car is the best of them, running second, just ahead of its teammate Hamza Vega that started from pole position. Car number 5. Rinaldi Racing's Alexander Maxwell running 4th place, as now the 16 car for Julien Gerby for Team Virage down in 15th place, looking for the inside line there. But Antoine Ducan, 1.5 seconds to the good, with an absolute best sector 2 time on this, the first proper flying lap of the race.
Things settling down nicely, and Ducan pulling away 10th by 10th by 10th. And that pair have got a healthy lead ahead of the Phoenix Racing number 5 car, Hamza Owega, now under a little pressure. Owega from Mitchell behind in 4th position. Mo Smith again a bit of a gap back, under pressure from Eric de Donker, with Tony Wells right in the mix there too. No further moves in GT to report. Gabriele Lancieri still has Michael Jensen between himself and his nearest contender, Niki Lertweiler. Manuel Agostner has made some progress as a result of some of those problems for the other LMP3 car. She's up to 26th in the third and final GT3 car on the grid.
Still the TS Corsa and Black Falcon battle rages on, and because the two are slowing one another up a little bit, Peccinini and Rosenberg, that's drawing in Torsten Young in the blue and white Mullner Motorsport car. John Schauman's not a million miles away either for United. In fact, Schauman is closer to the Mullner car than anything else right now, and Schauman fancies this, running onto the Kemmel Straight. He'll only have the outside line to use as they reach Le Combe corner, but very good speed indeed from John Schauman. Virtually level with the Mullner car, and he'll brake later round the outside and bags the place. Excellent stuff
from John Schauman, getting more and more confident as he gets more and more miles under the wheels of this United Autosports car, but great stuff there.
Yeah, there was an element there of Torsten Young backing out of it a little earlier as well for fear of contact this early on in the race, and I've nothing against that, bearing in mind it is a long affair which might include the odd safety car here and there, so better to choose your battles. And Torsten Young now with Julian Gerby not very far away in that yellow and orange team Virage number 16.
Pietro Peccinini seems to have made a bit of a break here for Mark Rosenberg in what was quite right, Johnny, a spirited battle for 9th position. The TS Corsa car, the one that looks like a bit of a Heritage Team Lotus livery on that Duqueine, has managed to just pull away a little. There's a mix-up in the Eric de Donker, by the way, lost a further position to Tony Wells that time around. Wells up now into sixth spot. So beginning to see some movement in significant places. Duqueine, though, is pulling away even further. 1.7 seconds before they cross the line, 1.8 seconds as they do cross the line, with 2 purple sectors for the race leader, 1 for his pursuer.
So Duqueine, who is proving himself to be just about one of the quickest bronze-rated drivers on the grid. He's just 17 years old in his first season of motor racing, well, with cars anyway, and the Cool Racing car, which is shared with Josh Skelton, who sadly, I think, got to drive at least one of the races at Road to Le Mans. Or if he did, the car was well off the pace and several laps down by the time he got on board, because there were a number of huge incidents, particularly in the Thursday race, away from the TV cameras. Down the hill towards Eau Rouge, the Black Falcon car now being caught. Is that Schauman again? Yes, it is, closing in on Rosenberg, as you've mentioned. And then in the meat of the Mullner Motorsport sandwich, it's Julien Gerby with Torsten Young ahead and Andreas Latour behind.
Side by side, and through goes the United Autosports car past the Black Falcon car. Up into 10th position for John Schauman. He'll be now looking to see what he can with 2-second gap to the TS Corsa 73 car ahead. It's Cool Racing from WTM, powered by Phoenix. Phoenix Racing, Rinaldi Racing, Cool Racing, Nielsen Racing, your top 6.
2 Mullner cars, Latour, the second of those for Australian driver, again new to motorsport in 2021, and I'm still constantly impressed by these drivers being attracted to the Michelin Le Mans Cup, who have maybe been out of motorsport for 6 or 7 years, or indeed choosing this way of going racing as their first opportunity in the car racing world. Just shows you how attractive it is at LMP3 level. Unfortunately, just the 3 GT3 cars in this year's race, but there's always a drop-off after the Road to Le Mans. And GT3 is such a dominant force around the globe. I suppose the choices are greater as to where you want to do your racing, but hope that again there can be an influx of GT3 competition from the new year, with an exciting new calendar announced for the Michelin Le Mans Cup yesterday, which will again include a visit to Imola, and for the first time in the Michelin Le Mans Cup history, a trip to the Hungaroring in Budapest.
Down the hill, the two predominantly green or yellow cars. Duqueine still leads well ahead of this pair in the 37. This is it's going to be another one of those races, Johnny, that we get these gaps we get to the if we get without a safety car to the middle part of the race and the driver changes, and then it all changes again, and then it changes again with the differing strategy that will come in with the final pit stop.
Yes. Yes, none of the GT cars need to do the extra stop, but all of the LMP3s have got to come into the pit lane for a second mandatory stop, where there are strict rules about what you can and cannot do during the second fuel-only stop. So no option to change your driver during that stop in the final 20 minutes of this 2-hour race. As up the inside there was going the DKR engineering machine of John Brownson, quite possibly on Frank Kraling at the end of the Kemmel Straight. And Verone very happy with a move there as well. Nicholas Verone, who will be at the wheel of the Rinaldi racing car a little while in a due course. So they've just got ahead of Hamza Ovega. That's Alex Matchell pulling the move off.
So that's another team that's been flying this weekend. We'll be looking to convert the form they've been showing in the earlier practice sessions into this race. Great to see such a flurry of interest in LMP3 for a number of significant German teams. Pretty clearly their social group has been talking about what great value there is here. The likes of Phoenix Racing, Rinaldi Racing, Black Falcon, Fricadelli, be familiar, very familiar indeed to those that watch the likes of the Nürburgring Endurance Series, VLN, NLS, call it what you will. But this is not just a car and a team, but a livery that's been familiar in those races for some years. The Wochenspiegel-backed car, and very splendid it looks too. This is the lead pair, and despite a purple sector in sector 1 last time around, that gap has come out now to 2.4 seconds, Johnny.
Yeah, so not sure that Torsten Kratz has done anything wrong necessarily there, but just a slightly better rhythm for Anton Ducat, perhaps. Alexander Matchell, now he's free of Hamza Ovega, might be starting to make some progress in that third place car for Rinaldi Racing, and the 12 versus 18 scrap is coming alive once again as well. So Mike Rosenberg, having already dealt with John Schauerman and then with Julien Gerby, is having to be mindful of these two cars behind him of Andreas Latour. The Australian has been put ahead, I would think, by Mulder Motorsport of Torsten Young, because that number 19 car marginally faster than the teammate. So are they all? No, they're not all Duquesnes. The two Mulder cars are chasing the Ligier for Black Falcon.
So yeah, Ligier from Duquesne, and Duquesne is your top 3 at the moment before a flurry of Ligiers. Then the TS Corsa Duquesne and the final Ligier to complete the top 10. So 7 of the top 10 are Ligiers, 2 of the top 3.
0.3 of a second between Rosenberg and Latour. The leaders in GT3 are right together now. They were separated by a couple of LMP3 cars at the start, but Nicky Leutwiler has wasted no time at all in the TFT prepared PZ Oberer Zürichsee Porsche. That, by the way, is named after what I believe is Nicky Leutwiler's car dealership, which is Porsche Zentrum, so Porsche Centre in Oberer Zürichsee by TFT. And the mantle of that dealership is adorned on the front of his race suit that I remember seeing at Le Mans, celebrating a good result there just a handful of weekends ago. 0.2 of a second, so basically a quarter of a second between the top 2 in GT3, Graham.
Alden Gudmundsson there, about to get stuck into a gaggle of cars ahead. He's already managed to get by Krater Ledudis, recovering from that first turn flurry of contact-related activity. He's got the Edex Sport, Grain Market Racing and Jerry Kraut's United Autosports car ahead, and is quicker than all 3 of them at the moment. Gudmundsson had been lapping until he caught them in the 219s, for 223s the car ahead. So good form at the moment from the Icelandic gentleman driver.
Gabriele Lancieri, as late as he dares on the brakes, the 46-year-old from Imola. So I'm sure he's chuffed to have seen the calendar announcement yesterday. If he stays with the championship, a chance of very much a home race and sleeping in his own bed, no doubt, as across the line they will go. Ferrari versus Porsche, that age-old battle. There's a spin right in front of the GT3 race leader. I wonder what on earth was going on there as Lancieri suddenly started turning left at La Source, but there was a moment for one of the two Mullner Motorsport cars, and I'm not sure whether that was Young or whether it was the sister car.
Looking.
It looks like the other car has been the more delayed. Yes, Latour it was. Andres Latour, who was ahead of Torsten Young a moment or two ago, has lost positions. That's car number 18, Graham.
It is indeed, and it almost interfered with the GT3 lead. But, quick thinking by Lantieri, managed to get him out of that battle. There's almost contact, by the way, between that recovering Mullner car and Niki Lertweiler as they came down towards Eau Rouge. Looked to me like Lertweiler had to just back out of that a little. And no doubt pumped up Duquesne driver.
DKR heading through Bruxelles corner with Jack Wolf right on his tail. I was impressed with Jack's pace earlier today in qualifying to really put the racing spirit of Le Mans car in the top 10. Better than that, actually. It was top 8 from memory. So the 25 car, perhaps with the best qualifying of the season. Unfortunately, though, difficulties in the race, maybe getting caught up in that turn 1 incident, has meant it's dropped down to 18th position now.
I think he was the car that spun out on the exit of turn 1. There was another group of 3 or 4 cars involved just off the apex.
Yeah. Down towards Campos corner goes the DKR car then, and that is under pressure from behind, but at the same time able to produce some decent speed. John Brownson, Steve Parrow up ahead, and Michael Jensen, not to be confused with Mikkel Jensen, in the CD Sport number 33 car. They're running 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th.
Battle for GT3 still very much underway, under a second between the pair as we watch this DKR Engineering car under pressure from the 25, the recovering racing spirit of Le Mans car. This is the organisation that previously handled the Cool Racing efforts, now racing under their own flag. And the Ligier looks to be about to try to duck underneath the DKR car. Will he manage to land a braking? Yes, he does. So the 25 car picks up another position. It's Jacques Wolf from John Brownson. Next target, Steve Parrow's Rinaldi Racing 55 car.
Debris being reported on the track at turn 12, which is the first bit of Le Fagnes corner, left-hand side, so hopefully not too much of a distraction, and certainly won't be the need for the race leader, who's arriving at turn 12 right now, to slow that much. There'll be yellow and red striped flags, though, being waved, I'm sure, to warn everybody locally that that is an issue, together with a message on our timing screens. 33 CD Sport car chasing down the 60 of Frank Kraling.
That's the second of the Phoenix Racing badged cars, which we'll see Colin De Filippi aboard later on this afternoon. And that's allowed Steve Parrow to close up on these two, and also Jack Wolf to close up on all 3. So this is a looming battle, which could get very fruity indeed. 14th, 15th, 16th, 17th and 18th places all together, as behind there's a further group getting themselves involved with the GT3 battle. Iron Lynx number 8 still leading the number 2 Porsche. Mark Crader trying to fend off Auden Gudmundsson. Both of them looking to get by the GTs if they possibly can.
Briefly to the inside there, a car 25 went the DKR Engineering machine, but wasn't able to get through. And again, it is about choosing the opportunities that might come off, they might not. And I'm sure early on in the race, you want to play it conservatively. Later on, when the pros get on board, there may not be the time to wait, and you have to sort of force the issue a little bit more. I'm not suggesting contact can be accepted, but the risk versus reward changes its ratio. And there's also the question mark as to how far into this 2-hour race we're going to go as well, because if the curfew starts to get rather close, then if you're judging the race distance to be the 2 hours, that might be an error, because you might get an early checkered flag.
You're right, and it's again, you obviously so often find in these races, Johnny, it's where the leader is as the clock runs down. It can be another 3 minutes, so it remains to be seen just exactly where we'll end up when we get close to 6:05, which is the hard stop. The curfew for this circuit, an extension granted for an extra 5 minutes to accommodate this race after the delays earlier this afternoon. That will be in the hands of race control, and they'll know exactly what's happening in terms of predicted time for this. We'll be keeping our eyes peeled for that one. Still just tucked in behind Steve Parrow, maybe about to take a look. A little too far back this time for the 25 car. Orban Gudmundsson, by the way, has gone by Mark Crader up to 22nd place, so he's dealt very well with the group ahead of him, and now he's looking to see what he can do to get by the battling GT3 cars on a similar kind of pace to the Icelandic man in 77, Team Thorcar, and that will be for 20th, 21st and 22nd place. There's a spin there in the background for John Brownson as he came down towards Speaker's Corner. It's now Jackie Hick's corner, isn't it?
Yeah, you might be right, actually. Yes, I'd forgotten that bit.
I think Jackie Hick's corner. Before getting there, Brownson went around. It is a yellow flag at turns 8 and 9. Came off the Bruxelles, and I think possibly rode a little bit too much curb, power in, and a classic error at that point, and was heading towards the barrier at one point, but I think he managed to spin that around.
Well, the yellows are cleared, so he's done a very good job indeed in A, keeping it out of the circuit furniture, and B, spinning the car around to face the right direction. But I did see the greens briefly waved at turn 9, and it's now green all the way through Bruxelles corner and down towards the Jackie Hicks left-hander.
Brownson has dropped all the way down to 25th position, so 26th in fact, cost the error for him.
As the GT3 scrap still in the hands of Gabriele Lancieri, and Orban Gudmundsson has found his way between the two. So there's a late lock-up there for the 73 TS Corsa car.
That's a battle for 10th position with
still
the Team Garage car of Julian Gerbi.
Gerbi ahead of Peccinini, and that happened into the bus-stop chicane. Good judgment there for the initial overtake. So got the overlap, found the track position, prevented the TS Corsa car from turning in, but then there was a late lock-up as Peccinini tried to get the position back from Gerbi, but that didn't come off.
Incident involving cars 30 and 32, turn 12 at 16:09, just 20 minutes ago, right at the start of the race, is under investigation, we hear. That is United Autosport's Daniel Schneider. That would have been Schneider off the road, wouldn't it, at the very start of the race?
Yes.
With Klaus Abelen, and well, we'll wait and see what emerges from that. 5 seconds now, the lead gap, and Antoine Dequin is working this well. No further action, by the way, for the incident at turn 1 at the start of the race, deemed presumably therefore a racing incident, as the 25 does make its way past the 60. So that's another position gained.
2 cars get ahead of Frank Kraling, in fact, because the CD Sport cars got through as well, and that will be replicated on our timing screen in a moment or two, just as soon as they head through the next split. But yes, Kraling rather got out of his stride when Michael Jensen got through.
Oh, big sideways moment there from the Rinaldi man. That's his Alexander Matchell, and that has that left him open to an attack here in turn 1. I think it has. Not quite close enough for Hamza Awega.
So Alexander Matchell, who's been racing in all sorts of things since as early as 1993 when he started in the German Porsche Carrera Cup Championship. He's run at Daytona as well in the mid-90s. So mightily impressive, Alexander Matchell. Long campaign, long career in GTs, and now, of course, more recently in prototype racing, with the team that's more recognised for German GT racing being Rinaldi and their Ferraris, with a former tie-up with WTM, now associated in this race with Phoenix.
Absolutely, and showing no signs that there's a lack of fight, is he, for a man with that experience?
No, certainly not. Pushing hard to keep ahead of Hamza Vega. Mo Smith for Cool Racing for 5th position, going well, and I'm paying close attention to Tony Wells and his launch up the order. I was a bit disappointed with the pace shown in qualifying earlier today, when I think they posted a 9th best time with Tony having to do the qualifying, but felt he was capable of better than that. Was taking an active role in qualifying for ELMS as well. We caught a sight of him, I know, in the garage down at Nielsen Racing. Well, that car leading the championship with Colin Noble after their win in the first race of Road to Le Mans. And one of those that there was certainly a large slice of luck involved, but also on the strategy. They were called into the pit lane during the safety car at the perfect time, and that when the safety car was finally withdrawn, left Colin Noble out front of everybody.
He did. It's fine stuff from the Nielsen Racing crew. Very different fortunes being shown this year between the Michelin Le Mans Cup campaigns and what's going on in the European Le Mans Series. Team manager, by the way, the DKR engineering squad has been called to race control. That is John Brownson's team manager, and we saw that car have a spin. Whether or not that was to do with the way in which the car rejoined or whatever. It was a warning, by the way, given to car number 32 and Daniel Schneider for that contact we heard was under investigation a little earlier. So just a warning for whatever that incident was. It did leave the 32 car off track. So Deccan, leading this race, continues to pull away. Here is Nicky Lertweiler under pressure now from Mark Rader and from Patrice Lafargue, and it looks to me as if Gabriele Lancieri is getting away a bit here.
That's the danger, isn't it, for Nicky Lertweiler? He was keeping Lancieri within sight a moment or two ago. The good thing is that there's not the interruption of a P3 car, but there are one or two P3s wanting to recover from a difficult start to their race and wanting to get ahead of the Porsche. And there'll be a point where Lertweiler has little choice but to let them go, and maybe just use them as the draft then, particularly down the Kemmel Straight, to help his Porsche along and maybe catch up those seconds. But 1.7 running the risk here for Gabriele Lancieri of breaking the toe from the Porsche, and then there may be no looking back for the man from Imola.
Yeah, it doesn't look at the moment as if Nicky Lertweiler is minded to give anything away in this race. Spirited driver, Nicky, been around for a long time. Success in GT Open and the Asian Le Mans Series on his CV already, and he'd love to add race wins and championship wins here in the Michelin Le Mans Cup to that CV. A good finish to the previous lap, a good start to this one after looking under immediate threat. Has managed to draw away from Mark Rader, who did have his mirrors full for a short while of Patrice Lafargue.
Matchell's just done the best sector rather of anybody through the first run from the start line to the end of the Kemmel Straight. So straight line speed, very good for the second of the Duquesnes. Also running a Duquesne, a WTM power by Phoenix and Torsten Kratz. They're second, but it's a Ligier that leads the motor race with Antoine Dupin in the Cool Racing car number 37.
So Team Farage here. Chased down by the United Autosports car. So that is Rapode supporting the 71 car with John Schaumann in the battle for 8th position.
Mid-pack pace is very good, I'm noticing, because Mike Rosenberg, Torsten Young, Michael Jensen, whether that's just them getting more and more used to this Spa circuit, being bronze-rated drivers, I'm not sure, but there are 6 cars in the middle of the field finding speed on that particular lap. They might have all caught the same clear air at the same point as well, of course, although there's only 3 GT3 cars in this race today. 1.9 seconds the gap between the leading Ferrari in GT and the Porsche. So that's extending very slightly again. Lertweiler might be in a position where he just cannot get close to the Ferrari if he's not too careful.
Keeping an eye behind this as they're catching, I think that is Kraten and Dudis car, is it not? Is that carbon
it's
in
the right
pits?
colours for that, I think. Yeah, with the Greek flag influenced machine, you're right, it is Crichton, yes. And John Brownson tucked in behind. Daniel Schneider, Brazilian driver, who again was impressive during the earlier session, although that spin wasn't there early on, coming out of the pits for, was that John Schaumann? I'm trying to remember, one of the United Autosports looped it anyway, coming out of the pit lane during qualifying. 66 and 5 being 3rd and 4th place cars. Rinaldi up against Phoenix and Alexander Matchell trying to shake the attentions of Vega, but just can't do it.
He can't, and we've seen some very quick sector times coming from the the number 66 car. It's a 5-second penalty added to the next pit stop of car number 3 for not respecting race director instructions at turn 1. So that will have been about running wide, I'm sure, and where you should then rejoin.
Yeah, there's a very long sausage curb down the left-hand side there, and I think you've got to stay well off that and wait for the painted asphalt to stop before you then rejoin. Just remind myself as I catch a glimpse again of this part of the circuit. So, yeah, if you run wide into the runoff, you've then got to stay clear of basically the end of the sausage curb and not hop over it, because that's judged as an unsafe rejoin.
All about other cars in proximity to the car that's run wide being sighted for the potential problem, rather than someone lunging back across you and you're under acceleration down the hill.
And at an oblique angle, quite possibly, so you just don't catch the sight of the car in the mirrors, and all of a sudden it's alongside you and fighting for the run into Eau Rouge.
This is the battle for third position, half a second between this pair, ahead of them. So 12 seconds ahead of this battle is Thorsten Kratz in second place in the 11 car. He's an increasing distance now and dropping back 7.5 seconds and more from the leader, the Cool Racing car number 37 of Antoine Dequin. Still making progress, by the way, and impressively. As Alden Goodman said, he's cleared the GT3 cars, now also ahead of Andres Latour, and I think he's picked up something like 10 places since that trouble at the start of the race.
No changes for the Crichton Lentudis and et al. Battle, so DKR Engineering, United Autosports, although this might be the opportunity here for the Duquet to the inside of the first turn. John Brownson recovering and capable of better position than this, and Brownson did get ahead of Daniel Schneider and Crichton Lentudis. He was already ahead of the United Autosports car. The Greek driver has lost 2 positions as they then descend down the hill towards Eau Rouge.
Lentudis, renowned historic racer amongst his collection of very fabulous cars, is a ex-works Peugeot 908. The races with Rui Aguas.
And Francois Perret's got one of those.
He's got one of those, very recently obtained, and won one of the 2 races at the Silverstone Classic this year.
Yes. You can see pictures at least of that, and even for someone of my tender years of going to Le Mans, it evokes memories of, I think, blimey, has it been, what, 10 years?
It has. It's
pretty much since the 908.
It's more than that. It's, you know.
Well, Peugeot's year was 2009.
More trouble for the number 3 car.
So that is, yes, John Brownson again. Doesn't like this part of the circuit, although this time given a helping hand, perhaps.
Yes.
There was contact from Daniel Schneider in the United Autosports car as they slowed for Bruxelles. The earlier spin for John Brownson came just the other side of Bruxelles corner between turns 8 and 9. This time the spin happening just before turn 8, but rather head-butted by Daniel Schneider. And
Daniel Schneider's already had a warning.
Okay.
For that incident at the start of the race. I wonder whether or not that might lead to a significantly more significant penalty, should we say. We'll wait and see what is decided by race control.
Well, Daniel will say, I didn't expect him to go so slowly into Bruxelles, but it's always the fault of the car behind, because you've got to judge the speed of that one in front. Say always, there are exceptions, but generally speaking, if one car runs into the rear of another, that's normally the rule. Out of Pouhon corner, the double left-hander, there's a chance of an overlap here for Hamza Ovega around the outside of Lafagna corner. He can't quite keep it there, but if he'd managed it, that would have given him the inside line then for turn 13 and potentially third position.
A great shot at it, wasn't it? He did keep his foot in. But, Alexander Matchel, I think, saw that one coming, kept to his line, kept it neat and tidy. No danger there, I could see, of any kind of contact. Great stuff from both of these drivers, and they continue on in third and fourth position. Dropping back, though, from Thorsten Kratz because they're battling.
Yes, maybe they've got to be thinking about the bigger picture here. No doubt if Hamza Ovega could get ahead of the Rinaldi car, he might be quicker in that cleaner air then, but the frustration is that they're both potentially missing out on a greater position than a third right now, because Torsten Kratz is enjoying very little distraction behind him. He, in turn, can't take the fight to Antoine Duquin, but there is a chance that all of this will close up when we reach the pit stops. So there's the chance of a fumble, of course, during those, and then when the semi and full pros take over. And then an additional pit stop for everybody in LMP3, at least.
Oh, it's trouble there for the number 60 car. That was the Phoenix Racing car.
Frank Kraling dropping down the order, lost a place to Steve Parrow and to Howden Gudmundsson for Team Thor, and Andreas Latour got through as well. And now there's the incident between car 32, which is a United car, and the 3
that was the Daniel Schneider,
yes, Bruxelles corner.
John Branson.
Yes. So that mess has been there for a little while. Apologies. I can see that only going one way, really, but we'll wait and see. As out of turn 9 goes the Matchel versus Ovega battle. Still Ovega very much keeping Matchel honest. Ovega is silver rated, 29 years old, from Cologne. Matchel's bronze, isn't he? So this is actually tough for Phoenix to take, because their better driver is being held up and preventing them from getting a better result than third currently.
Well, they will feel, possibly justifiably, as if he could and would be making further progress, but them's the rules. You've got to get by, got to get by cleanly. Alexander Matchel is doing a great job at the moment of keeping his team in its warning flag for Hamza Owega for abusing track limits. Yeah, I've seen that a couple of times, pushing very, very hard, sweeping the car out to the right-hand side with a little bit of an advantage there. And we're getting now into lapping traffic. 37, the race leader, about to go by John Brownson. This is our leader in GT3. Got Patrice Lafargue right under his rear wing now for position. He's broken the toe to the Porsche behind. Thinks he's going to let the LMP3 car go. He is. Get on with his own race. Gabriele Lantieri in the number 8 car, looking to do what he can to try to secure a championship win, and therefore an automatic invitation to the Le Mans 24 Hours next year for Iron Lynx. It is going to be a stop and go penalty for 32 for that contact with car 3, and that's not really a surprise.
No, I did think it would go that way, I have to admit. And yeah, John Brownson, having already had a spin, we think, on his own between Bruxelles and the Jackie Ickx corner, but very much a helping hand from Daniel Schneider in car 32. Trying to recover. Schneider shouldn't be down in 23rd position, in fairness. But again, you've got to pick and choose where you pull off the overtakes and where to pressurise a fellow runner. And into Bruxelles, where the third place battle is now arriving, is arguably not one of those locations.
So Hamza Owega just looking for where there might be just a chink in the armour of the Rinaldi Racing 66 car ahead. Up the inside, around the outside, he's tried most of it, hasn't he? And it doesn't look at the moment as if he's going to be able to force an error here by the absolutely undoubted and repeated pressure that's been going on for much of this race. We are, what, 38 minutes into this 2-hour race.
Loads more dust just pumped up into the air there by the rear tyre of Hamza Owega. Down towards Campos with Rinaldi just ahead, but the gap in front of this car, the green and yellow, getting larger and larger to Torsten Kratz. It's doubled since the last time I checked. Now 14, nearly 15 seconds, Kratz to Matchel. And that doesn't mean that Torsten Kratz is catching Antoine Duquin quite much either, because that's opened up to nearly 9 seconds from what it was at 7.5 a moment or two ago. So Duquin, despite having to deal with traffic, is slicing through it with very good judgment and form indeed, and stabilising that race lead back to the Wochenspiegel Team Monschau car.
Yeah, and Matchel here is just, the game is very simple now. Get to roughly half distance, give his teammates the opportunity to be fighting in the second half of the race for a podium position, as we see one of, is that one of the Milner cars? It is. Yes. Running wide, but without further drama up at Radion.
That's good, because as soon as the TV director cut to a replay of something at Raidillon, you
deep breath.
Yeah, you want to close your eyes, to be honest, considering what we've witnessed already today. But it was just a slight off-track moment.
So, flash the lights from the 66 car to warn Manuela Gostner, running in 29th, the last position at the moment, that they're on their way. And we're looking to put a lap on the third running GT3 car.
So race leader is in to the pits, and that's early. That's very early.
Looked like driver was out of the car. Or was that the other?
It might be the LMP2 car that we caught a glimpse of.
It shouldn't be in pit lane. Oh, it's the wrong pit lane. It's not. It's not the wrong pit lane. There's
the leader.
That rather.
It's the bottom line. There was definitely a 37 car of a similar livery stopped in the pit lane, which rather concerned Graham and I. But yes, the 37 in LMP2 for European Le Mans Series does run in the same colours.
It does.
So that was our
we can all
confusion.
calm down.
Yeah. Like you said, it shouldn't be in the pit lane.
It shouldn't be in the pit lane.
Because as far as I know, they are fuelling in the Grand Prix pits. It's impossible to fuel cars on that downhill section. Of course, that will prove to be the reverse of the reality in a moment or two. But always to this point at Spa, teams have had to fuel cars remotely, effectively, or in a satellite fashion, outside the garages within ELMS. Over the line will go the 37 car, still in the race, not in the pit lane, and leading by 11 seconds.
It's not been a day for United Cars number 32, has it? News, by the way, from the team, for those of you who follow not only the Le Mans Cup here, but also the European Le Mans Series, is the team are building up a spare car around a different chassis.
Yes.
That's not a surprise.
It's certainly not. And that was the suggestion from Kjot van Houten when interviewed by Haley Edmonds as well. So every credit to United Autosports for locating a spare car, and now all of the hard work that will be involved deep into the night and much of early morning, I'm sure, as well, to get that ready, well, to be rolled out of the garage at about 10:30 tomorrow in readiness for an 11 o'clock start. Rob Hodes versus John Showerman is very fraught indeed. The two Americans, with Showerman taking a long look at the inside for 8th position in LMP3. Tries a very different line versus the Team Virage pilot. And Rob Hodes will head across the line now. Lights flashing from behind though. And that will put even more pressure on the shoulders of Hodes. John Showerman having to just follow in the wheel tracks for the time being, showing he's one of the more patient, but when he gets his opportunity, a driver ready to pounce from Queens, New York, and back for a 3rd season, in fact a 4th season in the Michelin Le Mans Cup in 2021.
Got much the better run into turn 1, much the worse run out of it, but the better run now onto the Kemmel Straight. Is there going to be an opportunity here? Inside, outside? Not upside down, please. But not there. Rob Hodes as well, another man who is picking up experience and ability with more and more mileage up the inside this time. Sharman looks for that. Now, pressure being applied and resisted here. Cracking little battle.
Yeah, and Hodes with experience of a couple of teams as well. I mean, in fact, more than a couple. United Autosports in
Nielsen.
2019, then Nielsen last year, yes, and now with Team Virage, the Polish outfit, in both Le Mans Cup and ELMS, in fact.
Yeah, he's had a bit of LMP2 experience as well in the United States, Rob, and seemed very comfortable in that. I think that was that into Europol he raced for at Petit Le Mans? I think it was.
Yes, last year, and I've got him with Dragon Speed for Daytona at the start of this year as well.
Yeah. Ooh, bit of a wiggle there from the Virage cars, that giving Sharman just a bit of a sniff.
It's yin and yang, this battle, isn't it? At times, Sharman has got a firm advantage, as one car, that was the Virage car, ran very wide on the exit of Stavilo, as was known, now Curve Paul Frere. So all 4 wheels off the racetrack, tidier line from behind though, and John Showerman. So they will arrive into the bus stop chicane almost as one. You're missing nothing at the head of the order. Antoine Duquin still keeping good this 11-second lead over Torsten Kratz. Oh, there's a spin for Schaumann. Schaumann in pushing to try and get ahead of Rob Hodes has made the error, loses the car, and I think briefly stalls it as well. Fires back into life and actually lost far less time than I'd expected him to do there, because I thought I heard the engine cut out, and these cars don't like being restarted in a hurry. So what happened here, Graham?
Let's have a look. Caught the curb, power in, trying to launch himself through, and found there was no real grip there. And there's that's Richard Dean, co-owner of the team, and with her hands on her head, Charlotte Lumley, the very able team organiser at United Autosports. And yeah, you could see exactly. Oh, and off the track, Nicky Lertweiler. He's off too. So what's happened there?
Just a spin, I think, because there's no visible damage on the car. I remember Nicky Team had an absolutely monstrous crash a few years ago in an Aston Martin there, and
needs to learn to lift and coast.
Well, yeah, precisely.
Here we go.
That's the name of the game.
All by himself.
Yeah. With an Aston Martin ending up on its roof on that occasion in the WEC, he's kept it out of the tyre war this time for the Porsche.
Nicky Team?
It might not have been Nicky.
I
actually.
don't think it was
definitely an Aston, and it was definitely a pro driver. I thought.
I'm trying to think of the name of the driver.
Maybe it wasn't Nick. Apologies if it wasn't Nicky Team.
I'm sure it wasn't.
I'll have his
Nicky.
dad Kurt chasing me now.
You had no chance. Side by side.
Yeah, nearly, but it was a good run onto the Kemmel Straight there for the Edex Sport car number 17, and virtually alongside the 60 of Frank Crayley, heading now through the Les Combes sequence of corners with the dust kicked up once more, I think, by a car in front. And now heading towards, now for the second place car. Torsten Kratz was well wide.
That was the 55, isn't it?
Oh, the Rinaldi car, beg your pardon, you're right. So rather than the 11, it was the Steve Parrow driven Rinaldi racing car. As now down the hill goes the Edex Sport machine. Antoine Duquin, Torsten Kratz, Alexander Maxwell, first, second, third, with Hamza Ovega in fourth. Two of the top three Duquesnes, which is fascinating to me because you've then got a long line of Ligiers basically filling the rest of the top 10. So there's something special about those two Duquesnes, and namely the drivers, I would suggest, Torsten Kratz and Alexander Maxwell, because the next nearest Duquesne is Pietro Peccinini for TS Corsa. Oh, Mullner Motorsport car off the road as well. That's coming out of Le Fagnes corner, I think.
Is that the 19? 18,
it's the 18 car. And that was the one doing slightly better than the other as the sister car goes... No, that was Crichton Lendudis, in fact, going by. The other machine from Mullner Motorsport was already further up the road, all on his own, I think, for Aussie driver Latour. And the yellow flags are at turn 13, which is the exit of Le Fagnes corner. So it's come to a halt just on the inside, or the outside of the track, the inside of turn 13.
Dorian Pat is suiting up. I think, by the look of it, it might well have been.
Oh, the roller.
Nicky Team.
Okay. Well, that's good for my sake, I think.
What,
with a threat of family team now hunting me down because I'm accusing him of... I mean, I'm not sure whether it was his fault that he lost the car at that
I think
point.
it was on by himself. I think it was by himself.
But it was a bizarre old moment because they had big cars, those Astons, and it would it be the former one to the Vantage?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So it takes quite a lot to turn a 1300 car over on its roof.
I know, it's involved with the Jota car.
There you go. I thought there was another car involved. You're watching it back now, just to check the notes. So was it Nicky Team?
Yeah,
obviously.
It was Nicky.
Fine, good. Turn 13's under yellows, local yellows, but everything else, everywhere else on the racetrack, you are able to overtake. But it's just an awkward place for that car to be trapped, because I don't know whether they'll be able to get a recovery vehicle there easily. We might need a full course yellow, perhaps, to deal with that.
So 66 car, Alexander Maxwell manages to get the Fricadelli car between himself and his pursuer, but Klaus Abelin opting to drive a little off the road to avoid getting involved in that scrap. Full course yellow is coming for this. It will start in 30 seconds for recovery. Spot on, Johnny. You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
It's not in the places to come past Campus Corner.
Yeah, more of a location dilemma really for Eduardo Freitas and the rest of his team. And all on his own, the Molnar Motorsport car left the track. I caught that a moment or two ago.
That was also a overtake on the yellows.
E-Deck
on the Phoenix car, by the look of things. That was Patrice Lafargue on Frank Harling. So full course yellow we go now, and the volume knob is turned down several notches. And into the pits.
Oh, bang on. 50
Absolutely.
minutes. That's perfect for Racing Spirit of Le Mans, who have got in with Jacques Wolf.
Well, the leader is pretty close to pit in, I think.
And Patrice Lafargue is also in as well.
I think Patrice, though, has a penalty coming for that.
Yeah, because of the overtake under the yellows, covering the stricken Andres Latour car. Now the marshals can step down from post and make sure that Andres is okay. I'm sure he is, because he didn't hit anything on the during the spin, but want to chat to him to see whether it's likely the car will restart, I suppose.
Well, Racing Spirit Le Mans in, E-Deck Sports in, Phoenix Racing's number 60 in, and Grey Market Racing in, and the leader of this race, Antoine Ducan, is into the pits with a 21-second lead. That's slightly flattered because of the full course yellow. But he was certainly well into double figures, something like 14, 15 seconds before the race went under yellow. In they all come.
Yeah, you're going to get a steady pouring now of LMP3s heading into pit road. The GT3 pit window isn't quite open yet. That becomes open at 55 minutes into the race, so another 4 and a bit minutes.
This has fallen beautifully for the race leader. They've opted to take the early stop within the pit window, of course, and are going to take full advantage here, and absolutely no disadvantage at the very least.
Do you know, I thought all of a sudden this was going to favour 18th place and back, and all of a sudden the top 4 or 5 were going to be out of the equation, similar to what happened at Le Mans in that first race of the week. But yeah, as you say, Ducan then arrived at the bus stop chicane, almost perfect timing, and it means that Torsten Kratz and Alexander Maxwell and Hamza Ovega can also take the advantage of this 80-kilometre speed limit around the racetrack, and a chance to pit whilst others cannot, and that could be crucial.
There's still the possibility that a substantial chunk of this field might lose out if they recover that car quickly. So at the moment we've got all the top 5 cars on pit road now, and then everybody from 19th down to 27th. So it's a matter of when that track goes back to green.
Yes.
If it goes back to green before they can get round to start a full... the car is being lifted, but they're struggling to get that car lifted evenly, aren't they?
Yeah, and I don't know the reason for that, because the kind of mountings where the hoist is attached have been delicately positioned. Yeah. So you shouldn't have that scenario, I thought.
You'd have thought not.
So whether something's snapped in the process, I don't know. The 66 is getting a tyre change, which is the Rinaldi Racing, the better placed of the 2 Rinaldi Racing Ducanes.
As this time goes on, of course, this is a more even picture.
Yes.
In terms of the advantage to be drawn or the disadvantage to be suffered under caution.
Good point, because the longer the full course yellow goes on, the more chance you are going to get of making the pit lane even at the reduced speed. Home team, Motorsport 98, with home driver Eric Dodonka, who's just done the opening stint, so we'll be changing over to Dino Lunardi of France.
Well, crossing the track here with that car.
I don't know what that is trailing from the rear left wheel. Maybe something that was used to balance the car.
It looks like it's the same kind of thing that's being used on the front corner.
There we go. So pull a little bit on the front to get the nose down, pull a little bit on the back to get the rear down, but it is tricky to get the car from one side of the track to the other. They are doing a splendid job, the marshals, at turn 13 in order to try and get the race under green flag conditions as quickly as possible.
Team Virage with both cars. That car is going to be in a place of safety pretty quickly. And at what point then are we going to get the short call back to green flag running? Still not had all these cars into pit lane.
No.
12th down to 18th, including, by the way, the two GT3 leaders. In fact, 3 GT3s have not yet stopped.
No, I'm not sure how many times the GT3s have been through, because they can't stop for another 10 seconds,
indeed.
Remember. But when the window opens at 55, the first one to arrive will be the race leader, Gabriele Lancieri, who's just heading towards Blanchimont now.
Francorchamps will end at 17:03.
Okay.
In 30 seconds time.
Well, that's not going to help either any of the GT3 runners.
It's not going to help the GT3 runners. It's a significant blow for anybody from 7th downwards.
Yes. Yes, because we're going to go green partway through their timed stop, remember, so it can't
10,
be any quicker.
9,
Here's
8,
the countdown
7,
out of the full course yellow.
6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow, we moved. Full course yellow, we moved.
And who is the most awake to that? Well, there was a United Auto Sports car more or less level with the 66 Rinaldi machine, and that was not for position. Nicholas Varroni waiting to make sure that he'd heard from the team that the full course yellow had been withdrawn. Varroni running in 3rd position and has already been happy with his teammate in the 66, which is Alexander Maxwell, who'd got a place, and Varroni was busy cheering away down in the garage. Josh Skelton, new man installed into the Cool Racing 37, leading the race. Gaps are misleading for the time being. The next time they go through the nearest split, we'll get more of an idea. But it's going to be something like 15, 16 seconds lead value for Skelton over Weiss now.
I would say there's a significantly longer pit stop for what was the 4th place car, the number 4, now in the hands of Finn Gerschitz. Spent 25 seconds longer in pits than anyone else. Massive plus, by the way, here for the Racing Spirit Le Mans effort. They were the first down pit lane and have leapfrogged to 9th position as a result of this. I think they came in from something like 18th.
Yeah, so big gains for some, losses for others, and some of that is to do with the extra time that better, in inverted commas, drivers have to soak up because of the judgment of average lap times at various meetings through the year for bronze-rated drivers. And there is actually a way of balancing the cars that way. Now, what's happened at the top of Radion?
That was a spin for, was that the Black Falcon car?
Yes, I think it was. So car 12 rejoining, and the one behind has got a puncture. And that is a Duquesne.
There was that,
with
the
a
Black
drama.
Falcon car spinning to avoid the Duquesne.
Quite possibly. Or was it contact? I think it's the Duquesne in question.
Oh, they did. Oh, good grief, that was so close.
So that was at the Radion, very fast run towards the top of the hill, and Black Falcon nearly in the tyre wall, similar to the Emil Frey Lamborghinis as part of the 24 hours that ran.
It's the grey market car. It's Alex Mortimer.
Alex Mortimer then having contact with, who's the new driver in the Black Falcon then? It's Mike Rosenberg still, that can't be right. I don't think they've changed the driver ID. There was a big wiggle. Donor Munding, I'm going to guess.
I'm amazed that Black Falcon car kept out the wall.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, it's strange to see contact between two cars at such a vulnerable point of the lap. But Donor Munding, I believe, is now at the wheel of the number 12, having that car having made a stop, and they must have done the driver change as per the regulations. We've now reached the point where GT3 can stop, Graham.
Yes, indeed, the leader is in and back out again. Trouble, I think, with the harness for the Iron Lynx, the Iron Dames car. Out comes Julian Landauer, and that'll be a substantial gap between the two leading GT3s as a result of that spin before. It all went full course yellow for Nicky Lertweiler, and Manuela Gosner handing over to Dorian Parr. Seems to be delayed there too. Gap at the lead now, 25 seconds Josh Skelton has got over Leonard Weiss. But the gap to 3rd is coming down. Nicholas Varroni under 10 seconds from the 2nd place car. Finn Gerschitz 10 seconds further back in the number 5 Phoenix Racing car, and under pressure now from Matt Bell for his 4th position.
So Leo Weiss will be a little quicker than his teammate, who is Torsten Kratz, because Kratz the bronze, Leo mighty, whether it be behind the wheel of a Ferrari 488 or indeed in a prototype, which he's taken to in more recent years. The question is, I don't think Weiss is going to be a heck of a lot quicker than Josh Skelton. So as long as Josh keeps things neat and tidy, this half-a-minute lead should be retained. But it depends whether we're going to get the odd incident maybe with perhaps yellow flags, and that could condense gaps here and there as cars run into incident scenes. But at the moment, apart from the full course yellow, it's been a clean race. Let's hear from the outgoing driver from our race leading car.
I'm joined here by Antoine Dauquin, driver of car number 37, Cool Racing. Antoine, just take us back to the start of the race where you really maximised on the contact between the first two cars to take the lead. Not only that, you made it an extensive lead as well.
Yeah, the two drivers in front was on fire and the second tried to overtake the first. So they go at the outside, I just keep the apex and take the lead, and for now we're first, so just fingers crossed for the race.
So, I mean, over the course of the season, you've been done some polls. The performance has been there. What is missing to kind of put that all together to end up on the podium, would you say?
Since the start of the season, we missed some luck, so I hope today the luck going to be with us.
Okay, so when you go back out there, you're going to be going back out there?
Yeah.
And what are you going to? What's your optic? What's going to be the state of play when you go out there?
What?
How are you going to approach your last stint?
For now, I don't know. I will just see what happens.
Okay, thank you very much, Antoine.
So Antoine Dauquin with Henny Edmond down in pit lane in the gravel at turn 7. Andy Merrick, we've not seen yet what happened here, and that was in close contention with a couple of other LMP3 cars, including one of the other United cars. Didn't see what caused the start of that, but Andy is getting out of that car. Full course yellow is coming again in 5 seconds time, so we're going to be going back to full course yellow for the recovery of that United Autosports car. Didn't see whether or not that was a brush contact, whether or not Andy had a problem by himself, but he stalks away reasonably disgusted with whatever's happened to leave him in that situation. As an indication, by the way, we said a little earlier about this, the timing of that full course yellow in and out, and there was a group of cars that had taken a significant hit in that. As an indication of one of them, the Team Thor car, now in the hands of Anders Fjordbach. As we look here at the overall order, Cool Racing 34 seconds ahead of the number 11 WTM powered by Phoenix car, under pressure from the number 66 car. That's 10 seconds back from the second place car with the Phoenix Racing number 5 and the 69 Cool Racing car close together on track for the top 5. Nielsen Motorsport 98, Team Virage, Racing Spirit Le Mans and Edec Sport completing the top 10 as an indication of just what happened with that group that was in the mid-teens and losing out. There you go, 11th through to the top 20, all still of course the LMP3 cars with Team Virage 23 United Autosports car, Black Falcon, Phoenix Racing TS Corsa, AF Corsa, CD Sport United Autosports, Müller Motorsports number 21 and the Fricadelli car in the top 20. The 13th through to 20th place, lap down now. And rounding out the field, Team Thor in 21st, the 55 Rinaldi car, 32 United Autosports, that looks like it's out the race and in the gravel now. Then the lead car in GT3, the 8 Iron Lynx car ahead of the number 2 Porsche. Then the number 3 D-Car Engineering car that's been in all sorts of woes, separating the top 2 in GT3 from the third place car. Struggled in that pit stop with a problem with the harness for Dorian Pan by the look of things, and we're 4 minutes indeed on pit lane as opposed to the kind of close to 2 minutes. Point was though, as an example, Anders Fjordbach, when he got out of the pits, came out in 22nd, 23rd position. When he went in, he was in 16th. That's the difference the timing of that full course yellow made to those teams that had just completed the lap when it went to full course yellow. They could not complete a lap and a full pit stop in the time it took the marshals to recover that car, Johnny Palmer.
Yeah, thank you for filling for a little while there, by the way. It's been a long day for me, and I just needed to dive out for a few moments.
Contemplation.
Purely because of red flags and things. Yeah, I mean, you know, I've enjoyed it throughout, but it's been rather non-stop from a commentary point of view. You'll have to tell me what's gone on here then. The 32 car.
32 car, we saw the end of that incident at turn 7. Other cars in the vicinity, we did not see evidence of contact, but it ended up with Andy Merrick in the gravel and out of the race.
Yeah, okay. Real shame. But as you say, for those that pitted during the first full course yellow, if their pit stop was contained within the FCY, quid's in, because
Absolutely.
you don't lose any time that way. Whereas those that had the first bit of their pit stop on the yellow and the second bit on the green, it's amazing how costly that can be. But it's just a situation you find yourself in. You've got to do the pit stop during the window, and if you're stuck way out on the Kemmel Straight or down towards Bruxelles when that full course yellow comes out, there's just nothing you can do but tootle around at 80 kph and wait for your turn.
I'm wondering whether something broke on that car to pitch Andy off into the gravel. It was a little bit of an odd one. It's not been a great day, as we said a little earlier, for cars number 32 and entered by United Autosports. The LMP3 car out of this race, the LMP2 car in major trouble with a huge shunt for Nico Jaman and the team in the midst of building up a replacement car around a replacement Oreca 07 chassis. That work will go on, I'm sure, throughout the night. They've got a fantastic team, United Autosports, and frankly it's a plus that they've got the manpower and the facilities and frankly the parts to be able to have that car out at all. I genuinely expected we were going to be told that car was withdrawn. Yeah. So great to hear that they're in with a shot at being in the race tomorrow. But back to on-track action here. There's the 83 car that has lost so much ground to that delay in the pit stop.
And we're going to get going in 40 seconds time. Here's
full
the confirmation.
Course yellow will be removed at 17, 40, 30 seconds.
17, 14 and 30 seconds,
in 25 seconds now.
There we go. So less than a minute before we go green for a third time in this race. And let's hope that's the end now of the full course yellows, although one does tend to lead into another and another. We'll wait and see.
10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Full course yellow removed. Full course yellow removed.
Back to green flag racing, and past the number 83 go this gaggle of LMP3 cars.
I think that was heads-up driving from Dorian Power, well aware that the LMP3s would want to get by whether she picked up the pace or not. So just allow them by. They've already lost some time, that Ferrari, of course, in the pit stop. It's very busy indeed.
That's the battle for fourth position. This is Finn Gershitz and Matt Bell, and both, how can we put this, purposeful drivers.
Yes, agreed. Guess it's really good qualifying performance earlier today to take pole position. Matt Bell in the 69 car has got that car as one of the contenders as far as the championship is concerned. It's been up there in the points for much of the year so far, and Matt Bell then heading down the hill towards Eau Rouge, running in 5th place. And what about the Fricadelli car? That's
way
down, isn't it?
Yeah.
Axel Jeffries took that over during the pit stops, the Zimbabwean driver, but unfortunately a long way back, being in lost it again. 20th position. Yeah. Thank you.
20th place with Hugo de Wilde, who's in the 21 Milner Motorsport car, the remaining Milner Motorsport car after the 18 retired after that spin for Andres Latour. So Josh Skelton leads now by 21.5 seconds, 18 further seconds back to from Leonard Weiss, that is. Nicholas Veroni a further 18 seconds back, and under pressure from the battling pair for fourth. And we're looking at that battle here. Finn Gershitz and Matt Bell. Colin Noble 8 seconds back. And be interested to see what the Scot can do about this, as this pair are bottled up in their own scrap. It's a pretty typical situation that Colin Noble likes, just to work the gap. Yeah. As two others battle ahead. Time after time in the Michelin Le Mans Cup, he's done well in that situation. He's used that opportunity to big advantage to close the gap and take the position. See whether or not that might be possible again here. 8 seconds the gap there with Dino Lunardi, by the way, 1.4 seconds back from Colin Noble in 7th position. So lots up for grabs here on pace, quite aside from anything else that might be thrown at this field in this last, what is it, 50 minutes of the race.
Yeah, I was going to say that maybe Dino Lunardi will prove a greater distraction than the attraction of those cars up ahead for Colin Noble. Moment or two ago, Connor De Filippi wasting no time at all in picking off the Black Falcon machine. So that's Phoenix up against Black Falcon in a truly sort of Nürburgring Nordschleife affair, but here in Belgium. And De Filippi, I think, will be particularly menacing behind the wheel of one of these baby prototypes.
And by the way, neither of the drivers in those cars recognised yet on timing and scoring.
Yeah.
So De Filippi not recognised. Who are we expecting as the second driver in the 12?
Dona Munding in the 12, who had a pretty good run at Le Mans in one of the races, I seem to recall, in that teal or semi-teal coloured car. Side by side, Matt Bell trying around the outside of Finn Gessitz and got him even before the turning point.
That must have been the Black Falcon man delayed or stumped a little bit coming up through Radion and losing a little bit of top speed, but Matt Bell, no lack of top speed there. Away he goes and off into the distance. Matt Bell with the fastest first sector of the race. Fastest middle sector of the race, going very briefly to Josh Skelton leading the race, but then it switches to Frank Kraling, now ahead of the Black Falcon car and pushing on. He's the first car, by the way, off the lead lap at the moment, the number 60 car.
Okay. That gives you an idea of how impressive the run for the race leader has been, either in the hands of Anton Ducat at the start of the race or the 15 minutes or so that Josh Skelton has enjoyed. And Josh extending the gap, if anything, 23 and a bit seconds now over Leo Weiss.
Does so with the fastest lap of the race going to Josh Skelton, and then immediately that's what switches to the 60 Phoenix car. So Josh Skelton puts in a 2:15.767. That's bettered instantly by Kraling with a 2:15.291. I think because Kraling's trying to unlap himself from Josh Skelton.
Yeah. It won't be Kraling though, will it? It is.
Apologies.
There we go. Connor De Filippi is now replaced on our timing screen, so that's presumably the team now switching the data to the correct setting. And yes, trying to unlap, definitely.
He's right behind him.
De Filippi's trying to win the race, isn't he? From 13th position. That's quite a big ask, but you try and stop him with Donna Munding definitely in his wheel tracks now, because he becomes the driver labelled alongside the number 12 Black Falcon car. There's 2 and a bit seconds between them.
Indeed, and purple sectors popping up everywhere. The pace of this race is all of a sudden, they've hit the afterburners, haven't they? And a number of these cars. Nicholas Ferroni, the fastest third sector. Matt Bell, the fastest first sector. He's closing in on Ferroni now, just 2 seconds behind third place. So Matt Bell can sniff the possibility of a double podium here for Cool Racing.
Out of the right and the left of Le Fagnes corner, or into it in fact now, for the EDEC Sport car goes this scrap then involving the red and black machine, just tucked in behind, and into Campos corner it will go. So this race has taken a very different complexion now with the new drivers taking charge. Dimitri Engelbert just a handful of tenths away from Telo Shalal, the racing spirit of Le Mans. Wayne Boyd is just a couple of seconds further up the road, but there's a big gap of time then between Wayne Boyd and Garrett Grist. I don't know where that 40 seconds has emerged. Is that the difference between cars that pitted under, or fully under the full course yellow?
It could very well be.
Not.
It could very well be.
Because it's just a big gap for Wayne Boyd to have to kind of be facing now, particularly towards Garrett Grist, because there's not going to be a great difference of time and lap speed between those two drivers. Warning flag now for car 16, which is one of the 2 Team Virage cars.
Sasha Lehman, isn't it?
For abusing the track limits.
Nicholas Ferroni, another fastest sector, looking to do what he can do to break down that effort from Leonard Weiss in second place. 15.5 seconds is the gap to look at here. So, by the way, with that battle between Matt Bell and Francorchamps having been sorted out, not seeing much of an impact by Colin Noble on the pair of cars ahead of him at the moment. Matt Bell has pulled away from the Phoenix Racing man. Side by side here, that is the 17 and the 25. And that is for position. Dimitri Enjolbert goes ahead of Theo Chalal. That is for the final top 10 position.
And another new fastest lap of the race, this time set by Matt Bell in 4th place for Cool Racing. He's just a couple of seconds up ahead of Francorchamps, but he's trying to squeeze the gap to Nicola Varone.
And he's doing it.
Very much so.
He's taking a second out of the man ahead of him. Quick lap from Varone, but a quicker lap still. It's a full half second taken out on that lap alone by Matt Bell. So 37 from 11, from 69 from the 66 car. He's taken the position. He's ahead.
Matt Bell is ahead of Argentinian driver Nicolas Varone. Yeah, so great bit of skill and driving there to produce the time required initially and then get the overtake done.
Now, maybe that's because Varone has just been told, I'm sure, that he is going to get a penalty for it was Varone hit Andy Merrick. That's what happened there. It's a drive-through penalty for car 66 for causing the contact with car 32.
Yes.
So, with apologies to anybody at United Autosports, we didn't see that. Unluckily for Rinaldi Racing, Race Control did, and the 66 will be losing its now 4th place to a drive-through penalty as Matt Bell makes hay, moves through already into 3rd position. He's now got 16.5 second gap to work on to Leonard Weiss and is quicker by over a second a lap at the moment.
Varone heading through Campus Corner then and into the final sector of this particular lap. Still got 3/4 of an hour to go. And remember, in just under 25 minutes, the pit lane will be open again to all LMP3 runners to make another fuel stop. And each of the cars in LMP3 will have to complete that mandatory stop, whereby you can only do fueling, not permitted to change tyres or driver. And Matt Bell snakes his way through the chicane at the end of the lap. The number 33 car now has a pit stop under investigation, which is the CD Sport car.
Taking at the wheel of that car at the moment.
Michael Jensen doing the opening stint. Not sure where the infringement came.
Colin De Filippi, by the way, making up positions, but has not yet unlapped himself.
Yes.
So it is a drive-through penalty now for car 20 for contact with car 12 at T4. So that is the Grain Market Racing car with the contact with that was the contact up through Rouge Radion, wasn't it?
That's right.
That cost the Grain Market Racing car that puncture. That car, by the way, is not emerged from the pits. I think they're done.
Yeah, I mean, been in the pits for a long time now. Alex Mortimer had brought it back out again, hadn't he? Because the incident was post the initial pit stop. It was Donna Munding and Alex Mortimer involved in that clash, which could have been oh so worse at the top of Radion, considering what we've experienced in this weekend alone at that particular corner. I reckon potentially at the end of this lap, Conor De Filippi will be ahead of the race leader. Just the fact that they're not on the same lap, so won't take the race lead as a result. But De Filippi, by the look of our tracker, is lapping more quickly than Josh Skelton currently.
No. Yes, middle sector. It's tight.
Well, last time did a 2:17.1, which is quicker than the race leader. So but it depends whether, communication to Josh is let the 60 car go, because the danger is
there
might
they
let
are.
one or two others go as well.
Just disappearing out of our view, and nose to tail still, the American behind the Brit. Warning flag goes to Matt Bell for abusing track limits. That's a final warning to Matt, running in 3rd as a purple middle sector. Possibly track limits aided.
Yes, agreed.
In the 2:15s, by the way, Matt Bell, and has the lead, the gap down to 12.5 seconds now to 2nd place. So pushing very hard, maybe a little too hard.
Donna Munding is in the wheel tracks of the 31 car and should be able to get this move done at the end of the Kemmel Straight. Does so at the inside of the AF Corsa machine. No, the 25 that was, wasn't it? Heading into
the 25.
corner. Yeah. Okay.
Into the pits for the drive-through comes the 66 car. Takes that there. Phoenix Racing's Fingerschitz immediately pounces and grabs 4th place. Colin Noble is through and into 5th place as a result. New fastest lap of the race goes to Matt Bell. 2:14.633 on lap 31. 12.1 seconds is the gap to 2nd place, but can do nothing more about stretching the patience of race control on track limits.
Nicholas Verone versus Dino Lunardi, very close indeed, just 0.3 of a second through the last split for those 2 cars, and the change in fact as we speak about them. So Lunardi elevated to 6th position as Verone, just made a stop of course through that penalty, yes, so that makes sense, but it was close before the pit stop as well, so job done very easily for the Frenchman Dino Lunardi, and now has 7 seconds to find on Colin Noble. 6 seconds the difference between Connor De Filippi and Wayne Boyd, which is an interesting one to watch, but De Filippi just doing a 2:15.7, not quite the speed of Matt Bell, but it ain't too far away, just a second away considering this is surely his first race in an LMP3. As he's done only stateside, De Filippi, he certainly has done in Europe.
Don't recall him doing it.
Verone, well, that car capable of an absolute best through the first sector, but is now on an out lap and losing no further places other than the one to Dino Lunardi a moment or 2 ago. In GT3, Paolo Roberti took the number 8 car over from Gabriele Lancieri and they retain the race lead, so on course for another 25 points. There's not a lot that the Porsche team could do about this. Julien Andlauer taking charge of the TFT run Porsche then from Nicky Leutwiler, and is frustratingly for Andlauer 21 seconds adrift of the GT3 leader. A lot of that was done prior to the 2 full course yellows in fact.
Matt Bell's pace continuing to slice into the advantage of Leonard Weiss. Remember, 12.1 seconds now becomes 10.4 seconds, 38 minutes to go. And that is looking better and better for the Brit in the Swiss-flagged Ligier.
Through turn 9 goes the spirit of the racing spirit of Le Mans car, Taylor Jalal. Cian Carey tucked in behind, well actually not, about 5 seconds away in the TS Corsa car. Rui Aguas for AF Corsa is a further 4 and a bit seconds away, and Adam Iteki for CD Sport, who we had a message about, or the 33 car at least, was being alerted to us as being in breach of a regulation. As out of Le Combe corner, the chasing 66 heading down the hill. Up ahead then is Dino Lunardi with Verone, well, looking to get those positions reversed again after Verone made they did the drive-through penalty, lost the place to this red and black car at his home race, but Verone showing the speed, evidence that he might be able to get back ahead of Dino Lunardi purely on pace. Championship positions as things stand: 122 points, plays 89, with still, after this, 26 on the table. Looking very strong indeed, isn't it, for the 8 crew? And that's if they get the 25 points from this race victory.
Yeah, that would be game over.
Well, the gap coming here was, we said, didn't we, 26 points. No, 25 points. There's damage here for the 16 Team Virage car. Rear left has no, the wheel is still there, but it's majorly going down. That looks more like suspension damage rather than a puncture, I would have to say.
Sasha Lehmann.
Now there was a penalty. It was about track limits for Sasha Lehmann, wasn't it? So it's not connected. I wonder whether there was a message about contact, but it wasn't.
Front right wheel is off the ground here.
It is, yeah. So that's either a suspension failure, or as a result of some contact, it's buckled a part of something.
Take it easy, Sasha. That's...
It's starting to shred away the tyre because the inlet on the top of the wheel arch is starting to slice that rubber away.
I don't think that's a tyre.
I think you're right. Is the tyre still inflated? Well, where did it happen? Towards the end of the previous lap, coming out of the bus stop chicane, bang, all of a sudden something goes. There's too much smoke coming off it for it to be a puncture. I think the tyre's still fully inflated, or semi-inflated, let's say, as it turns through the right-hander at La Source. I think I agree with that theory. Just a bit too much speed here from Sasha Lehmann. I know he's eager to get back to get the tyre replaced, but the danger is you're going to do substantial damage to the suspension, or at the very least the wheel arch of that car.
69 car of Matt Bell as he makes his way back. Sasha Lehmann, the gap now under 9 seconds to second place. Best we start to track the gap to the lead. It's about 35 seconds is the gap to the leader. But, with the way things have turned out in this race, championship positions in LMP3 are going to be very interesting, because we've got the top 1, 2, 3, 4 cars are not in the top 4 of this race. The highest scoring car at the moment is indeed the championship leading number 7 car. Yes. And they're running in 5th position right now.
Meanwhile, the Motorsport 98 and Rinaldi Racing duo, who are fighting it out for 6th and 7th, had to get by carefully the stricken Team Virage car, and did so. Sasha Lehmann was trying to stay off the racing line as much as possible.
This is critical for the Rinaldi Racing crew, because they're second in the points for the championship here. They've lost all that time to that penalty, need to pick up the points, and specifically need to catch and pass the number 7 car to make an impact on their championship position.
Over the line they go, and yes, 66 desperate to try and get in front, but safely. And well, the opportunities to overtake Dino Lunardi are often few and far between. Let's see whether just sitting in the wheel tracks Verone has learned anything about where his car may be stronger at times.
As things stand, as Sasha Lehmann does make it back to the pit lane, as things stand, Matt Bell and the 69 crew will close in on the championship lead in this position. Up the inside goes the 66 car, so that's some more points clawed back. But the gap to Colin Noble ahead, as Nicholas Verone, by the way, puts in the fastest first sector of the race.
Suspension's gone on this car. They were just moving it up and down, and I think the hand across the throat indicates that is just about it. Oh, hang on a moment. Maybe not. Rear tyre being refitted. Well, there was plenty of play, I have to say.
It might be just to push the car away.
Yes, that's true. Just because it's not going to go anywhere, is it, on free wheels?
There's no sense of hurry about this.
No.
I think that car's going to be pushed away.
As I say, there was just far too much play, and where that is leading from in the suspension, I don't know, but maybe a breakage, maybe a failure. The car, is let down, and there's no stability on the rear left corner at all.
So the top edge of the tyre poking up through the gap in the kind of wheel arch.
But also the camber's way more than I would expect, with the top of the wheel much closer to the centre of the car than the bottom. And something big time has gone, and unfortunately the 16 car, another retirement.
So for the championship, the critical gaps at the moment are Matt Bell to Leonard Weiss. That's down to 5.4 seconds now. Matt knows this is an opportunity to massively close the gap in this championship. The other gap is Nicholas Verone to Colin Noble. They are the top 2 in the championship points, running 5th and 6th, and 6.5 seconds between the pair, with Verone at the moment slightly the quicker by about half a second last time around.
Reaching the end of the Kemmel Straight is the 31 car for AF Corsa, with Rui Aguas then just in front of Adam Mateki, who's very wide coming out of Le Combe corner, catching way too much of the gravel on the run towards Bruxelles in the red and yellow CD Sport car. Cian Carey, Irishman, running in the 3rd of the best Duquesnes. When you think he is down in 16th position, shows the dominance of the Ligier chassis. They have a slight advantage numerically, of course, as well, but nevertheless, Duquesne haven't really shown their true capability this weekend. When you consider this is a circuit that depends quite a lot on straight line speed, that's often where the Duquesne has outpowered the Ligier. But I suppose Ligier pretty nimble through the middle sector, as these two cars are proving. 31 Rui Aguas and CD Sport number 33 for Adam Iteki.
I got one marginal question here. Now, we know these are customer teams, okay? Cool Racing, it is 4 different customers, or 2 sets of 2 customers in those 2 cars. Matt Bell gets through to second place here. He's now 3.5 seconds back, and that looks like it's going to happen. He'll be about 30 seconds back from the lead car, which is the other Cool Racing car,
yes,
which is not in championship contention. What happens then?
There's a decision to be made amongst the Swiss squad, isn't there? Because
and their customers.
Well, yeah, precisely. Because it is important for the same team to win the title. There isn't an invitation to Le Mans riding on it.
There was a guarantee that the winner will be offered a position in the LMS next year.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Cool are already there in P2, and they've got a P3 car as well, haven't they, in ELMS? My mind is automatically now on...
Yes, they do.
On Michelin Le Mans Cup, but they have got the 19 car, which of course Matt Bell is part of, and Nicholas Cruton and Nicola Molini. But would that mean that they could therefore get 2 cars into the ELMS, automatically a bonus? But it would mean some explaining to Josh Skelton and to the guy who's really performed well, Antoine Duquesne, who I'm sure will be rather disgruntled.
Who have not won a race yet, have they?
No, I don't believe so. 37's best result this year, actually a 6-point haul. So that would have been for a 7th place finish. So yeah, massive step forward if they can get this race win. They haven't had the luck at times, and Josh Skelton, I think on at least one occasion, hasn't even got a drive because of an incident that the 37's been involved with. So that would be a real shame to take it away from them. Team manager now for car 12 is being asked to report to race control.
That's Black Falcon.
Is that related to... No, it can't be related to what happened at Radion. So I'm not sure about that.
Because they were not blamed for it.
Precisely. That was the fault of the pursuing car.
Matt Bell, by the way, under 3 seconds now back from second place. So too tight to call as to where this is going to end up. It's going to be about clean runs through the fuel stops. They're coming any time for about another 8 minutes or so. And it's going to be about staying disciplined on track, isn't it?
Yeah.
Matt is absolutely herring back here. He is not going to catch Josh Skelton on pace. That 35-second gap to the leader is now under 32 seconds. He's pulling away from Finn Gershitz. Now 9 seconds to the good. Colin Noble is dropping back from that battle, but is holding off Nicholas Veroni to a tune of about 6 seconds. So at the moment, that points battle for 5th place here and for the overall championship lead is pretty stable. The only car in that top group that can make a substantial points gain on pace here is the currently 3rd placed Cool Racing 69 car.
So Cool Racing, who have 4 cars ahead of them in the championship, but in this race those 4 cars are all behind Matt, because
Correct.
Bearing in mind he's going to be second very shortly. So there's a chance to get 7 more points on those others that are ahead in the championship. And you've got to think from a Cool Racing point of view, that's too good an opportunity to turn up.
This is the battle. This is the 2nd place car making its way through traffic. Matt Bell not so much further behind. In fact, just 1 second behind. It's either side, isn't it, of that 2-car, a 4-car train with 2nd and 3rd places either side of it. As Matt Bell looks to do what he can about passing the 22 car. That is Scott Andrews, a championship contending car, by the way, but down in 17th place.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty certain one of the other cars that suffered badly just with the timing of that full course yellow. And Scott will not be in a hurry to let Matt Bell by.
Well, no, certainly not. Nothing for him to gain in that respect. So
he's 3rd place in the championship at the
let's
moment.
wait and see what happens here, because they're heading out of Pouhon. Well, actually gave him racing room certainly, and allowed the door to be briefly opened. I suppose if he lingers that decision, then the blue flags will be starting to wave, and there's more penalties to be picked up. There was a spinner there. That was one of the Mulner Motorsport cars.
It's the only one that's left, if that's the case.
If it was a Mulner car, there are one or two sky blue cars and white in this race, other than the two Ducanes I'm thinking of. So one, as you say, out of the race already, which is Andres Latour. If it's a Mulner car, it's Hugo de Wilde.
Or was it the AF Corsa car, which we've confused before, another blue and white car?
Exactly, in the Greek flag colours. So it will be a car that takes a little while to reach the end of the final sector on our tracker. Hugo de Wilde is car number 21.
There's a 77-second middle sector from Rui Aguas, which is 16 seconds. That looks like it was Rui Aguas.
Middle sector, yeah, it might have been just before the split, actually. It's right on the cusp where that car had spun, but I think you're right. So Rui Aguas has had a moment, or been involved with somebody else down at Campos Corner. The rate of speed heading through Eau Rouge is still absolutely frenetic. You would expect it to be, well, certainly higher than it's been to this point, because we're now into the final quarter of the race, and there is no margin to be lost here in the closing stages, particularly from the perspective of Matt Bell. There was a wry smile from his co-driver Maurice Smith up in the garage there a moment or two ago. He knows what Matt Bell is capable of. Also, nice to see a smile at least from Manuel Gosner, despite the battle, the pit stop for that car not going to plan, with a difficulty for the belts for Dorian Pan.
Well, there's the 21 car. That car is in the middle of that group, therefore could not have been the car spinning behind them. Well up to speed, the 21 in fact taking a position there from Scott Andrews, Hugo de Wilde. Another car I think that got caught up in the post full course yellow shenanigans.
Yes.
So Josh Skelton now 30 seconds ahead of Leonard Weiss, with Matt Bell 1.6 seconds, but now through the traffic and looking again to close the gap to second place. Remember, at the moment 15 points would come the way of the number 69 car. 3 more beckon if he can get by the number 11 car. The points situation at the moment, by the way, the 7 car leads the championship with 63 points, 54 to the number 66 car, 51 to the 22 United Autosports car, which is in trouble there in the midfield, 49.5 for the 23 car, which is in 9th position at the moment. Then you look to the 69 car, 41 points. Add in the 15 they currently get to 56 points. Add in a further 3, 59, and all of a sudden they're in championship contention.
Yeah, and then you could, well, if they do think about the switch, there's maybe another 7 up for grabs as well, which would take them to 66 points. And
would not lead the championship today,
because, well, Nielsen is still scoring reasonably well in 5th place, so 10 points you get for that. But it's a significant move up the table for Cool Racing if they can stay in 3rd, if they can gain 2nd. Could they even gain the race lead? Let's wait and see, with 22.5 minutes still to go. And crucially, the pit stop, the 2nd pit stops for all the LMP3 cars, which is the scope for chaos, potentially.
Has to be clean, has to be clean.
Out of Lecombe corner goes the 2nd place car of Leo Weiss, with Matt Bell right with him now. Bruxelles corner, there's a slower car up ahead, which is the PZ Obera Porsche of Julian Andlauer, not going slowly at all, but of course compared to LMP3 pace, he won't be able to hold these cars back.
He's 16 seconds back, by the way, from the race leader in GT3, Paolo Roberti, and not making a substantial inroad into that. Roberti has been pretty solid since he got aboard that car. So those cars, by the way, winning 23rd, 24th and 25th with Dorian Pan. Something like a minute and a half back from the lead battle in GT3. Tends to kind of focus attention on the difference in those pit stop times, doesn't it? They lost, now that now says that she spent 2 minutes and 39 seconds. I swear it did say 4 minutes before, but maybe I misread that. But they lost something like 20 seconds, so there'd be a minute back still.
Yeah.
Here is the battle for second though, and Lauer marginally delayed the 11 car there. What's going to happen here coming down into the bus stop?
Well, Matt Bell needed to get through in the same manoeuvre, didn't he, which he just about managed to do, and Anlauer had to drive virtually completely off the track, but it was Matt's corner to definitely force the issue at Blanchimont, and he's now right on the tail of Leonard Weiss. He will move to the make it think that he's going to move to the outside. He does eventually go there, Matt Bell, and that, if he can stay there, will give him the inside line into Eau Rouge corner, and Leo Weiss cannot really offer a response because I think he's going to be slightly out muscle by Matt Bell. As long as Matt can get to the apex at Eau Rouge, surely not too abreast all the way through this sequence of corners, and Leo Weiss is the first to blink. I thought that was going to happen. When you go up against Matt Bell, he is never going to give in.
Yeah, I'm sure we could see Mo Smith cheering in the garage. I'm sure his big bruv Rob is cheering at home as well. 25 and 33, getting a bit physical there. That's the Racing Spirit Le Mans car and the CD Sport car, and that was a change for 13th position. Adam Ateki taking the position from Théo Chalal. That's just going to get fruity in the last 20 minutes, isn't it? We're now into the kind of into the window for that final pit stop.
We are, and I think we're into a window where Cool Racing have to make a decision, like you've already brought to the table. Over 30 seconds, Matt Bell isn't going to make that time up if these cars continue at the pace they're going. You could fashion something during the pit stop, I suppose, to delay the 37 car to make it look less obvious. But then, as you say, Cool Racing have customers that they want to keep very much on side. And Josh Skelton and Antoine Ducat and all those connected with those two drivers are not going to be happy, considering they've established this lead purely on their own talent. A little bit of luck as to where the full course yellow arrived, and that 37 could pit very early on in the FCY and get their pit stop completed. Confirmation that if the GT3 order stays like this, it will be Iron Lynx to take the title in 2021 with an insurmountable lead going to Portimao with only 26 points left on the table.
Yeah, and Paolo Roberti is pulling away a little, probably helped by the fact that Julian Andlauer got involved in that tussle with the LMP3s. So Andlauer at the moment not really got an answer to the pace of the Ferrari ahead. So Cool Racing, it is 1-2. Josh Skelton, 34 seconds clear of Matt Bell, 37 from 69. Then it's the WTM powered by Phoenix car, Leonard Weiss. He's now dropping back. Phoenix Racing's fourth place car is pitted. Oh, that, of course, we're now into the pit window, aren't we?
Yes.
Fricadelli also on pit lane. Don't get excited, Graham. Just
you know that thing we've been mentioning for many times during the race. It's actually happening now.
Very forgetful. There you go. There is the Fricadelli racing car. We've not seen enough of this, have we? Very pretty looking car. Axel Jeffrey taking this one over from Klaus Abelin. Great to have this team in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. Let's hope Klaus Abelin and the squad decide to come back for more. They'll be more than welcome.
That would be great, wouldn't it?
Motorsport 98 also on pit lane. There is the Phoenix Racing car, came in from fourth position. It's 13 seconds stop and go for the Black Falcon crew for not respecting the mandatory pit stop time. That's what they were being called.
Yes.
So that was 1 minute and 56 seconds, quite correct. That's over the curb from
TS Corsa.
Well, both it curb to the inside from Jaguar, curb to the outside from TS Corsa, and was that
Kian Carey? Yeah.
And that was for position as well, 17th. They're not messing about, are they? It's every position is being fought. We're going to hear a lot of stories from a number of the guys in the midfield here about how their race would have been so very different had that full course yellow timing not been what it was. Had it stayed out for another 30 seconds or a minute, it would have been a very different picture. But just for where they were on the track, the number of teams, I think 7 or 8 teams, punished severely for just not being in the right position on track at the time.
Blanchimont corner for WTM's Leo Weiss. Car immediately in front must be one that he's trying to lap.
25, I think, isn't it?
It may, yeah, it's the right colour scheme for Racing Spirit of Le Mans and Théo Chalal.
Yeah.
So 25 cars, some jumbling of the order in the midfield. That was Chalal trying to get in the pits, wasn't it? And couldn't do it with the 11 car around the outside. Chalal has not made his second stop yet, nor has the 11 car, but he nearly took Leo Weiss into the pits with him.
So there was that the mirror coming off the race, that something came off, or was it just a...
He is trying to get into the pit lane and go the right-hand side of the cone.
It was a dive plane.
Right, but the problem was he slowed up so much because he'd gone a little too deep into the bus stop chicane. He wasn't on the right side of the track, the correct side of the track.
He didn't position himself well, if that was what his intention was.
And there is deliberately a red and white bollard sitting there, which is the point of no return. If you go on the right-hand side, you have to pit. If you go on the left-hand side, you have to stay out. Round the outside goes Matt Bell.
Not messing about still, Matt.
This is up alongside a rejoining Fricadelli racing car.
Yeah. So Matt pushing on, still has to stop. Nicholas Veroni is the latest to pit. There he is, the number 66 car. This is another car in championship contention still.
Stress levels down at Cool Racing very high indeed now, and are they thinking about maybe a switch of the two drivers to achieve a championship?
I'd sort of be surprised, I'll be honest with you. On one level, if this was a full pro team, then I don't think there'd be a question. If this was a factory effort, I don't think there'd be a question. But that's not what this is.
Indeed.
This is gentlemen drivers paying to race with their selected pro drivers, and that's a big ask for a team.
Yeah, I mean, the team name is shared because that is the way that these customers are going racing, and very professional teams they are. But you can't then go to a customer who's paid for your services through the year and say, hey, do you mind if we switch our cars around so we can win the title? It's not really a conversation that you would want to be putting forward to customers, particularly when you want to retain that customer base for years to come.
I think we're going to see some major changes in the driver market, the driver makeup of a number of these teams. There's parts of the sort of silly season as the CD Sport car comes into pits for.
We nearly had another incident there. I mean, this is always an awkward pit lane entry, and the CD Sport car nearly across the bows of Paolo Roberti, I think that was, the leader in GT3.
Yeah. Some very interesting conversations going on. Drivers you wouldn't expect talking to team owners you wouldn't expect in all sorts of places in this COVID-controlled paddock. And I am expecting some major shifts with some well-known drivers between LMP2 and LMP3 teams coming into next season, Johnny. This is a very fluid marketplace indeed. And by the way, expect some big news in terms of the LMP2 marketplace in the coming weeks, with some stories emerging about what might happen with the WC and the ELMS and LMP2 teams coming along, switching, expanding, new faces, new names. It's all happening as all of this marketplace comes together for a very different looking sport in 2023.
Yeah, can't wait. Although we should savour these days as well, with particularly GTE, due to be a thing in the past once we get to 2024.
Matt Bell on pit lane, by the way.
Yes. So second to fifth, all pitting at this point in the race. Josh Skelton probably going to come in at the end of this lap in the 37 car. So he got a lead of 42 seconds very nearly, but that's because cars behind him have come down pit lane. And will need to pick his moment to go from one side of the track to the other. That's better car placement, I would argue, because although he chucked it into the bus stop chicane, used the momentum of the tail end of the car to steer it further right, so that he was well clear then of any cars behind, and also the trajectory of the car was perfect between the bollard and the edge of the circuit.
Leader of the pits, incident involving 31 and 33. 33 is the CD Sport car. The 31 is the AF Corsa car. That was the one with both cars over the curbs. Cool Racing second car requires a pullback. That won't be too much of a problem because this is a timed pit stop, remember.
Yeah, so a set time given to each of the LMP3 teams that they cannot be under, they cannot be less than a little blast of fuel.
2 minutes 10 seconds, I think, is the answer on that one.
Okay, the cleaning of the windscreen is also legitimate as far as this particular pit stop is concerned, but you cannot touch the tyres, you can't change the driver, and we've seen teams penalised for that reason in the past, so something to be well aware of when you're making the stop as to what you can and can't do. Now, towards the end of the Kemmel Straight goes the 69 car, gaining back the time that it's just lost during that pit stop relative to the sister car at Cool Racing, the 37. Josh Skelton will be on the move fairly shortly, and a lot of these teams playing this final stop conservatively, because if it is 2 minutes and 10, we've seen 2:12, 2:13, just to be on the safe side. The last thing you want to do is lose a race or cop a big penalty by running it too close.
Absolutely. So Matt Bell emerges 2 minutes and 44 seconds behind Josh Skelton. That is basically the gap plus the pit stop. So in about 2 minutes time, with about 8 minutes on the clock, we'll know exactly what the gap is going to be. 2 minutes 12 on pit lane from the second place Cool Racing car. So let's see if anybody else is in trouble on their pit stop times.
Through Curve Paul Frere will go the Matt Bell driven car, and in a moment or two Josh Skelton emerges at pit lane exit to head down towards Eau Rouge, and we'll get a true gap. The 37 car then into the slowly setting sun. This place, if it didn't have enough atmosphere already, looks even better during the early evening. We're at 3 minutes to 6. The other question is, of course, how far are we going in this race? Because remember, 6:05, last lap's just been indicated right now. So the 37 car, having just made the pit stop, that's presumably because all of the LMP2s have now made their final stops, with the exception of, no, that's a GT3 car, so probably Eduardo Freitas was waiting for that point, and the rest of his crew at race control to say we are okay therefore to waive this race slightly early, purely because of the delay earlier on in the afternoon during qualifying rather than a race, but two massive incidents during ELMS qualifying, one in P3 and one in LMP2. And Josh Skelton and his teammate Antoine Ducas, who started the race so well and really scampered away from everybody else, on course here for their first victory and easily their best points score of the season.
It's been a cracking race from that 37 crew, held it under control. Great chase to the front from Matt Bell to secure second place for the number 69 crew. Excellent stuff from Cool Racing throughout. The Phoenix cars, they've been a little bit more up and down, a bit more of a kind of pogo up and down the order, but solid run for the number 11 car. A good run at the moment to fourth place, if indeed it stays fourth place for the number 5, because Finn Gerschitz is under 2 seconds back from the sister car. Colin Noble fending off Nicholas Veroni, and that is for a solid points finish from the two leading cars in the championship, the 7 and the 66. Here comes the 37, Johnny.
So into the bus stop chicane. The car's really not put a wheel wrong all the way through. A slightly shortened race. We know the reasons for that, but we shouldn't take anything away because they were going to win it anyway with a 30-second lead. And after 45 laps, Josh Skelton will complete a race victory that I think he's been due, together with his teammate in the 37 car, Antoine Ducas. So a Frenchman and a Brit combine, a bronze and a silver. But Antoine Ducas laid the foundations, and Josh Skelton may well say that was one of his more easy victories in a career that has certainly taken into, well, Ginetta Juniors initially and then single-seater racing. Now, of course, in a world where he shares the car and thoroughly enjoying it, and a race victory to back that up. And it's a perfect result for Cool Racing, because a team that will gain a lot of ground in the championship, Matt Bell and Maurice Smith, will complete a 1-2 finish for the Swiss Cool Racing squad. It is Wochenspiegel Team Monschau, powered by Phoenix, finishing in third to complete the podium with Leo Weiss and Torsten Kratz, who started the event. The championship in GT3, with a round to spare, will go to Iron Lynx and the number 8 car this weekend, driven by Gabriele Lancieri and Paolo Roberti, and the Iron Lynx crew of Italy down there celebrating their title and their automatic invitation to the 24 Hours of Le Mans next June. Credit must be given to Rino Mastronardi, who has built up most of that points tally, Graham.
It's Andrea Piccini there being congratulated by the team. Big family feeling around this team, and this is a name, Iron Lynx, we're going to see a lot more of, including, by the way, the link with Prema Power Team in the WEC next season, LMP2. Lots more to come from what is becoming a bit of an Italian powerhouse, isn't it? Cool Racing utterly delighted with that result. Antoine Ducan, tears in his eyes, and quite right too for the young man. Big race win for him.
So Gabriele Lancieri brought in from the Monza round. Rino Mastronardi had done a couple of races and scored a second and a win at Barcelona and at Le Castellet to start that points haul rolling. They are not done yet, of course, because there's still 26 points on offer at Portimao, but 122 points from only 5 race meetings, 6 races when you total up the 2 Road to Le Mans events. And Maurice Smith, very, very happy with that, purely because of the, well, it's a podium and it's a massive point score compared to those that were ahead in the championship, like the 7 Nielsen Racing, 66 Rinaldi Racing, 22 and 23 United Autosports cars. Important ground gained with 1 round to go and 26 points on the table in Portugal.
Could be a cracker.
Really could.
You know, these races have become absolute tinderboxes, and that one in Portimao, I think, is one too savoury. If you're listening in and watching in to this broadcast, put the date in your diary for that one. You won't want to miss it, because that will be, I think, a bit of a clash of the Titans. Lots to play for, and there will be, I think I'm right, 4 or 5 cars still in the running for that. The way these points have worked out, I think it's at least 4 cars that could win that title in the final race.
Yeah, and Portugal just has a habit as well of just delivering one of those more unusual races that were as impossible to predict, whether that be at Estoril or in more recent days at Portimao on the roller coaster at the Algarve International Circuit. So you better make sure that you're tuned in for that in little over a month's time, which will be the finale of this year's championship. But let's hear from our winning duo, Cool Racing.
Yes, I'm with the winning duo, Josh Skelton and Antoine Dauquin. Guys, you finally managed to put it all together after a season of ups and downs, and you've won here today in Spa-Francorchamps. Firstly, tell me, how do you feel?
Yeah, I feel really happy. It's amazing to finally get a win. We've been very close in quite a few rounds, but we've had a little bit of bad luck and a few mistakes. So to get the win, it's amazing. What
really worked today? What made the difference today, would you say?
Antoine got a mega start, and he just managed the gap from there, pulling away from the rest of the pack. He handed it over to me in the lead, and then from then on it was head down, just maintain the gap, look after the tyres, so I had enough left for the end.
Well done, and well done to you, Antoine, for that fantastic lead.
Thank you, yeah.
And extending it.
Yeah, we finally get it. We managed to get it after the difficult start of the season, which was not lucky. So today the luck was with us. We did the mega job. Everything was perfect thanks to Cool Racing, and we're going to enjoy that one.
That's right. The young guns have won here today in Spa-Francorchamps. Well done, guys.
Yeah, a little bit overdue, I would suggest, but you've got to have some luck on your side together with the ideal race. So the 20-year-old from Cumbria, Josh Skelton, joining Antoine Dauquin of France, who really did put in the kind of the hard, heavy lifting there in the early stages to establish a gap and then to hold it at 15-16 seconds. He was helped out by a full course yellow early on, and the timing of that pit stop, of course. So much happened over just shy of 2 hours. Beginning with the rather hurried start to try and get the cars to the grid on a short call because of the delays earlier on in the day, but 6 abreast I think I made it, heading into a very narrow right-hander, the pinch point at La Source, and I think it was always going to come to a little bit of a head here. The racing spirit of Le Mans cars spinning, with at least one United Autosports car as well going out wide, and 1 or 2 pinged for not rejoining in the way established in the driver briefing at the start of the weekend. And if that overlapping wasn't enough, then we had plenty of overtaking beginning early on, with side by side the TS Corsa car overtaken by the number 16 Tim Virage machine. Unfortunately, that Virage car would go on to suffer suspension failure, and maybe this was an indication of where that all started, because there was some close quarter racing for the Polish team. And the 8 car got away well at the time with Lancieri at the wheel. Gabriele Lancieri. There was a touch there, only the merest of touches between United Autosports and the DKR engineering crew at Bruxelles corner, but enough nevertheless for the United car to earn a penalty. Just catching the curb, the 23 of John Schauerman, looping it when he was closing in on the Virage car of Matthias Luton. And a big spin as well, which was very costly for the PZ Obira Porsche, losing it down at Campos corner. And they never did recover all that time back up again. Julien Anlauer pedalled very swiftly indeed, and only ended up 7 and a bit seconds away from Dominic Schwager, who in turn was 0.2 of a second away from Paolo Roberti. So that gap was definitely closing towards the end. Awkward contact here, which could have been so much more nasty for Donna Munding, who was, well, the rear was caught by Alex Mortimer by his Duqueine, immediately resulting in Alex getting a puncture and a penalty. The car, in fact, would not rejoin the race. Second full course yellow, and then the suspension failure for the number 16 car hit right at the start of the lap as well. There could not have been a worse position for that to have happened for Sasha Lehmann, who had to limp around the rest of the circuit. But unfortunately, when it got back to Virage, they realised they would not be able to repair it. Daunting overtake for Matt Bell heading through Eau Rouge and Raidillon, but it's the sister car at Cool Racing who take their first victory of the year, with Josh Skelton and Antoine Duquin thoroughly chuffed with that. You couldn't see the broad smiles behind the COVID-19 masks, but trust me, they were there. And Cool Racing, I'm sure, will be celebrating late into the evening, although well aware as well that there's an ELMS race to look forward to tomorrow with a couple of their cars involved in that as well. We have title winners already with a round to spare in the Michelin Le Mans Cup. It's Iron Lynx and the number 8 car. And podium presentations about to happen imminently, with the field of cars now housed within the endurance pit lane. The 45 laps, though, were won by Cool Racing for Josh Skelton and Anton Duquin, ahead of the sister 69 car. Third place going the way of the WTM, powered by Phoenix number 11 of Leo Weiss and Torsten Kratz. And it was a fellow Phoenix car of Finn Gersitz and Hamza Ovega finishing in 4th place, just ahead of Nielsen, who should score fairly well in the championship, just obviously not as well as car 69. And then a little further down the order, Dino Lunardi just outside of the top 6, Donna Munding in the Black Falcon car, and in GT3 it's the 8 Iron Lynx crew who win from PZ Obira Zierikzee by TFT. We have new title winners in form of the Italians.
I'm joined here by the winners in the GT3 Iron Lynx of car number 8. Firstly, Paolo, well done, congratulations. Not only have you won here today, but you won the championship.
Yeah, we did a great job all together. We changed driver, but car 8 was always on the top of the class. Our target at the beginning of the year was to win in the team championship. We did it with one race before the end, so we are very, very happy. We did all great work. The team was amazing.
The reason you're here, of course, is because you played a big part in all this as well, because there have been quite a few drivers changed. So, I mean, what does this mean? What does it represent to you, having, you know, taken a big part in this result?
Yeah, obviously it's good. Unfortunately, I've been forced to jump out of the car after 2 races, but still, I mean, I did a little part of the job, so I'm very happy for that. I'm happy for them as well, because they have done the rest of the season. They've done very well. The team obviously is the second year in a row that wins the championship, so this is great. Yeah.
Great. Well, thank you very much and congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, and a decision I think that had to be made by Iron Lynx because of the vagaries of the regulations. They were enforced to kind of slow down the very rapid bronze-rated drivers, and Iron Lynx got to a point where they realised they weren't going to be able to be in a strong position to win races if they kept Reno in the car.
It does rather show there, I'm afraid, that regulation doesn't work.
Yes, agreed.
It's not a good regulation.
They found a way around quite easily.
Quite easily. So what we've got there as we watch the LMP3 podium about to go, great stuff, by the way, from the two guys in the 8 car this weekend, both 46 years old.
Yes.
And in the number 8 car, and the race winners combined age 35 in LMP3. So both born in 1975, Gabriele Lancieri and Paolo Roberti, but Josh Skelton, I believe, still 19 years old.
Right, okay, I've got it down as 20, but it makes no difference, really.
And then Antoine Ducan, I think, is still 16.
Yes.
So there you go, 35 or 36 compared to 92.
But who are the title winners?
Still winners.
Who are the title winners at the end of the day? These guys have only won one race so far.
Absolutely.
This year.
And we're looking there at Matt Bell and Mo Smith. And Mo, by the way, becoming a beloved figure in this paddock. His enthusiasm, his passion for this, and frankly his speed as well. God bless him. I think he wouldn't mind me saying so. That if you saw Mo walking down the street, you would not have potential championship winning racing driver on the first list of things you might think he's done. That's the championship positions now.
Provisional points. Nielsen still lead it on 73, but only by 11 points back to Rinaldi Racing on 62. So it's still pretty tight. There are fewer teams now that can win it, but you reckon what was 4?
4, I think. 59 points there for the Cool Racing car that came home second, and I believe one of the two United cars could still do it, but certainly the top 3 in this championship are the ones that go with the chance of doing it on pace, and there you go.
Quite a reaction from Cool Racing.
They make quite the pairing, don't they?
They really do. And
it's like Santa and his bigger helper.
Matt Bell, yeah, the elf from the workhouse. Well, he did a lot of the fully commitment driving. I think Mo will fully admit to that, particularly down at Eau Rouge, keeping Leo Weiss honest. Let's hear the national anthem of Switzerland then, to celebrate the Cool Racing 1-2 finish here at Spa. The national anthem of Switzerland, not only to celebrate with the winners, but also the team in second position, with Germany represented by WTM powered by Phoenix, and the flags of those two nations displayed now above the podium as well. Nicolas Lapierre right in the middle of the Cool Racing gang.
It's his first year as the man at the helm of this, and they're winning races in LMP3 in the Michelin Le Mans Cup with both squads, and it's great to see. It's great to see another emerging force in LMP3 racing. Be part of the story moving forward. Watch this space for what happens at Cool Racing in the coming years. They are not one of these teams that's going to come forward and say we're going immediately to LMDH. They're not in that financial league yet, but they are a team that is clearly looking after a new and emerging customer base, and that's to be relished in this marketplace.
More points. So this is for the LMP3 Drivers' Championship. So Tony Wells and Colin Noble, who raced together, are on 73. Then 11 points back, Alexander Matchell and Nicola Veroni. It is 3 further points back for Matt Bell and Mo Smith. And then on 51.5, Jerry Kraut and Scott Andrews. And they are, still within grasp, just about at the 26-point margin.
It does mean that, both those United Autosports cars can at least mathematically do it, although Wayne Boyd can't.
Right, yes, because he's on a slightly different points pattern because of...
he missed a race.
Missed one race. I think it was only one, wasn't it? Because he's too close for it to be any more than that.
Because he stepped in, if you remember, to the LMP2 squad.
Yeah, okay. Yes, that's all coming back to me now. Matt Bell and Maurice Smith finishing second. Just caught a glimpse of the WTM powered by Phoenix car on the ragged edge as well, which finished in third position. And the similarly liveried Antoine Duquin and Josh Skelton car at times sideways through Eau Rouge on the run up towards Raidillon. We've seen far too many wayward cars on that part of the circuit this weekend, but it's wonderful to see cars looking like they're on tracks heading through there.
Fantastic stuff, Antoine Duquin. But let's not, as we have another look at the points in the GT3 Le Mans Cup Teams Championship, Johnny.
So 33 points is the leading margin and therefore unsurmountable lead for Iron Lynx over PZ Aubert Zurichsee by TFT, and the second of the Iron Lynx cars, third in the championship on 67 points. The other two cars, the 51 AF Corsa and the 10Q Racing Team Mercedes, which I think only did the opening round, did not feature here in Spa. Dorian Pain and Manuela Gosner will step forward now to take their places on the podium. Good to see that they're still very, very happy with their efforts, despite the fact that that pit stop was not the cleanest, and not through any fault of their own, with just a belt issue, it looked like, and it cost them about 30 extra seconds. I'm not sure whether they were going to finish first or second even without that problem.
No, they weren't quite there in a day where these top two teams were fully lit. I'm afraid the Iron Dames today were not in that fight, but this is all about developing talent.
Yeah.
It's about learning how to deal with this, but let's not take it away from, what's been an excellent display today by these two gentlemen, fending off, let's not forget, a full factory Porsche driver here.
Yes. And here's the national anthem then for Iron Lynx. Well done to Gabriele Lancieri and to Paolo Roberti, who take victory in the number 8 Iron Lynx car, scoring more valuable points for that team and netting them the title in the GT3 Teams Championship. Still, I think, need to establish... No, it will be fine for the drivers as well, won't it? Apart from the fact that Lancieri will be further back. But has Roberti been an ever-present, is the next question.
Has Nicky Lertweiler clinched that title?
Well, precisely. Or can he still do so in Portimao? That's something else to look into. We know about the teams winners, but the drivers are on a completely different pattern. And Roberti arrived here on 45 points. So let's have a look. Here we go, 89. Yeah, there's still a small enough gap, 89 back to 71, for that to
18.
Be decided in Portugal as well. Leutwiler and Julian Anlauer are on different points because Anlauer's not done one of the rounds. So Leutwiler still has a driver's title to race for in Portugal, and he is by far the favourite going into that final race of the season.
Dorian Pain can still win it.
Really?
Depending on how many cars we get starting and finishing, she could just do it.
Okay. Well, that's again something that we need to explore in the weeks between now and the final race weekend of the season. There's about a month to wait for that final race in Portugal. It'll be a 2-hour affair on the 24th of October. We will have it all covered here, of course. And Dorian Pain, as you say, entering this weekend in third position behind Julian Anlauer and behind Nicky Leutwiler. Leutwiler and Anlauer picking up 18 points each this weekend, with Dorian Pain slipping only 3 with her third place finish then with Manuela Gosner. Lots to look forward to. Join us on the 24th of October for the final round in Portugal. From Graham Goodwin and Johnny Palmer. Bye-bye.